Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. Today's call regarding procure to pay walkthrough one. On this call, we will go through the whole procure to pay from start to end. So let me start one by one as per the agenda. So the first is the how we can create a vendor master, a vendor in NetSuite. To create a vendor, first of all, we need to go into list, then relationships, and then after vendors. We already have 5 or 6 vendors as a sample data that we have imported earlier. So let me open one of this one. Okay. So the vendor ID is generated. Of course, this is the one that you have provided, but if you create a new one, then vendor ID will be automatically generated based on the auto numbering. Also, we can provide the name of this vendor and then the company name as well. Category of vendor can be defined over here. And of course, the primary subsidiary to which this vendor belongs. This all are other email, phone, and address related informations like email and web addresses and everything. You can also upload vendor logo. But to upload this, first of all, you need to upload the logo into file cabinet. Right, where is that? Yeah, here in the file cabinet. Once you upload in the file cabinet, then you can select the same from the drop down. Okay. The other important information in the financial tab that you can have terms, of this particular vendor can be selected from here. Then you can also mention the credit limit, Incoterms from this drop down. We can also default a particular expense account if if a particular expense is the default expense that we generally purchase from this vendor. Similar way, we can also have a default payable account for this vendor. The default payable account is also available in the global setup, like in the setup and then accounting configuration, accounting preference. It is available. But in case if you want to have a particular payable account for vendor specific to vendor, then you can define here. If there is some account number provided for this vendor, that can be entered here. And if the name is different on the check and it is not similar to what is mentioned here, then in that case, you can enter a different name for your checks on this one. If this particular vendor is applicable for 1099, then we need to tick mark this, and then the vendors having the tick mark box here will be available in 1099 reports that you can generate later. Tax ID also can be provided. On this one, on this particular area, we can define the vendor bill matching related setup. Like vendor bill purchase order quantity tolerance is 10% around that I have entered here. Of course, this particular setup also can be done at the global level. At this subsidiary setup, that is here, let me show you. If I open the subsidiary and view, so vendor bill matching. So here the globally, I just mentioned like vendor bill item receipt quantity tolerance is 10%. Coming back to vendor records. At the bottom section, we have a transaction tab where all the transactions that have been created with this vendor will be available. Okay, what else? Other informations. This is the subsidiary tab where we define, subsidiary for this vendor. If there is a multi-subsidiary structure, then of course we can assign a single vendor to multiple subsidiaries. But in this case, always this will be the single subsidiary. On the address tab, we can enter the addresses, and of course, the particular address can be defined as a default shipping or for default bill. This is how the address has been entered here. Okay, if related to this vendor, if there is any documents or messages or user notes if you want to mention, that can be mentioned here. In the message tab, system will show you all the message, or the emails related to this vendor will be available on this tab. In the relationship tab, of course, we can have a contact details. So for this company, if you want to have a particular contact, so that can be either can be created from here, or we can attach the particular contact if it is already existing in the NetSuite. Okay. This is some preferences available. Then here the system informations that all the changes happen to this particular vendor will be available in the system informations. The bank payment details, this is the important one. The vendor which are applicable for EFT bill payments. For those one, we need to tick mark here. Once we tick mark and save, we are allowed to enter the bank details of this vendor. For now, I just entered the random data, a sample information for the bank details that I can show you here by editing. So this is the bank details of that vendor. This is just a sample information I just created to go with the process. Where I can see choose the payment file format, which I have choose SCS CCD PPT, bank account number and bank number, bank account type that we can select from here, and that's it. This is the only information that we should mention. Coming back to vendor details. Okay, on this purchase history page, also all the purchase order information will be available, and in the vendor 360, all the transactions that we have created with this vendor will be available here, and multiple tabs are available for each and every transactions. You can also add certifications of the vendor if there is any. Okay, let me cancel it now. Apart from this, for the vendor, we have also implemented the vendor approval process. So let me go through with that. Let's say if I create a new vendor.
Suraj.
Yeah.
Question before we move on regarding vendor contact information. I noticed there was a section for contacts. Can we have multiple contacts and have them the communication separate by the type or the function? For example, making sure that the accounts payable, our AP is talking to their AR and our procurement is talking to their like sales or customer service, but we don't necessarily have to, it's not all going through the same person. Does that make sense?
You can create a multiple contacts for this vendor, and regarding the communication to a particular contact for specific transaction, that is also possible.
Okay, so that would be through the like the role section.
Yeah, I'll show you later. I mean, on this process when we were
right.
creating a vendor bill. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yep. Going back, and let's see how the vendor approval works here. New vendor. Okay, just for example, I'm creating a test company 2, primary subsidiary as Eagle Beverage, and then just a minimal information I will put and save. So once I save, let's say any user who is not from the accounting department have created the vendor. So it will show me a submit for approval. So I'm allowed to, once I create the vendor, of course, I can send this vendor for the approval purpose to the accounting team. When I create this vendor, and as this is not approved yet, so the status of this vendor will be inactive. Let me show you that, or maybe in the system informations. Yeah, you can see inactive because this is not approved yet. So as far as it is inactive, this vendor cannot be used for any kind of transactions. And
So just to confirm, they cannot, that checkbox is not active, right? Like if you click on the inactive checkbox, it's not going to, okay, it's not doing anything, right?
Yeah. Yep. Of course, on the edit, I can do it. Let me see. I think I can, of course, remove the their ability to untick this one, but I will recheck if that is implemented or not in the workflow.
No, I don't want them to be able to unclick it. I just want to make sure it cannot be unclicked.
Yep, I will reconfirm
Okay.
on the workflow side as well, but
Okay.
I not at this point. Yep. Yeah. So on the approval, tab, you can see that there are 2 tick mark. One is for submit for approval, and another is for approved by accounting team. So once I submit this vendor for approval, you can see this has been tick marked, submitted for approval, and this is still inactive. As I'm administrator, so of course I can approve it. Otherwise, it will go for approval to the accounting role, right? But currently, as I'm administrator, I can approve this one. So let me approve this. Once I approve, you can see there is one more tick mark so that someone can see, okay, this is approved by the accounting team. And if I go back to the system informations, it is now active and can be used for any transactions.
And I think if you guys noticed, you'll see down below the log there. So everything related to this transaction has been logged. So we'll know exactly who's doing what, and I think it also has the date and time stamp. So we'll be able to turn these things in a we'll be able to start keeping track of how fast we're getting through stuff.
Love that.
Yep. Coming on the top side here, you can see beside the vendor, there is one more icon. If I click on this one, system will open a new page like a vendor dashboard. And over here, I will have all the information of the vendor, like here, primary information of the vendor, then key performance indicators, right? What is my purchase of the current month and the previous period? Current fiscal year and the last fiscal year, like that way. And there are some, quick shortcuts are available for some reports and, for some transactions as well. And at the bottom section, all the transactions generated for this vendor will be available here. So this is a quick dashboard for a vendor. Going back. Yeah, so as I have a vendor, now we can go for the purchase order. For the purchase, to create the purchase order, there are multiple ways of creating it. Like one is through the purchase requisition. Another is purchase request. Then third is blanket purchase order, from where multiple purchase order can be created. And the fourth is directly we can create a purchase order. let's go with the purchase requisition. So as I'm administrator or maybe some other role, where I have given this access, someone can create a requisition from here, like transaction, purchase, and enter requisitions. Okay. The another way is if we haven't given access of the, full license of NetSuite, but we just provided the employee center license. So I can go to the employee center, and this is not the full license, just an employee center license, where I can have a limited informations of ERP. And from here, I can create my purchase request and the purchase requisitions as well. However, the requisition can be entered by any users, either they are full license user or they are employee center user. But in the purchase request, there is a limitation, like the purchase request can only be entered by employee center role and not by the full license user. Going with the requisitions first, enter requisition. By default, system will provide the information based on my employee record in NetSuite, like subsidiary, requester, date is today's date. And here I should select one location. Then at the item line level, I can select the item from here. Let me select one. Let's say for this. This is the item that I selected. Quantity, let's say for example, 10. Right? Inventory details, descriptions, and estimated in the requisition. As this is not a purchase order or not a full contract with the vendor, so I'm just providing my estimated rate. This is just for example. Maybe rate is not as good as for this item, but just for example I have taken. There are multiple other information like expected receipt date or promise date that we can also enter for information purpose, but let me have this information. There are some other tabs similar to all the transactions. All these tabs are very common, like communications and relationship for the contacts, and everything is available. Let me go back to items and save. Now, once the requisition is entered, this is pending for approval from my supervisor. Here you can see the estimated total is 120. Right.
Hey,
Now,
Suraj,
if I want, yeah, tell me.
Can we go back one step? Sorry.
Yeah.
So a few things. For the item, this is, so the item you pulled up here, this is an inventoried item, so there's going to be a record of that. Okay? So we should be able to select those from a drop down.
Yep.
Okay. Juan, does that answer what you're asking me?
Yep.
Okay. I mean, you got to do that right now, though. You have to type in.
Right. We can type on. So
Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. I got you. So if it's not, if the requisition is being made for a non-inventory item, would we be able to use the item field as like a text field? Or is that a process? Is that something we wouldn't be able to do through this process?
Suraj, what if you type in Coke Zero here? Can you just type in Coke Zero?
It's a drop down, Aisha. So basically it looks at the list of items in the system, including inventory, non-inventory, the whole bunch of items that it looks at, that it can show you. And yeah, this is a list, so it's only pre-created items. So yeah.
So what do we do if we have
Even the non-inventory items should be part of.
So when you say
items.
non-inventory items, so in NetSuite, non-inventory is a type of item, right? You might have seen that in Design to Build. So it's still a list.
Are you saying something? I think your voice is not.
No, I can hear.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, so what I was just saying is in NetSuite, non-inventory is also a type of item, but I think when you say non-inventory item, you just mean like you're just using it ad hoc on a transaction and you haven't created the item yet. Is that what you mean?
Yeah,
That's
so let's just say we're buying something from Costco, right? And we're going to buy some water, some Coke, some napkins, some plates, like blah, 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 right? And so typically they would put in a requisition for these items. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to get them, but that's kind of what they would like. You know, generally speaking, a vendor has been set up in the system, but the item is not attached to any specific vendor. The way we're seeing this here, based on the earlier call and now and this one, is that the item absolutely needs to be set up in NetSuite in order for us to have it populate so we could order it, even if it's a non-inventoried item. But there will be sometimes, like especially maintenance, for example, they'll be ordering some random screw parts and we don't necessarily need to put them in as a permanent item because we don't know when they're going to have to order it again. So I
We
just
could,
think we're
yeah.
trying to figure that part out.
Yeah, I was just trying to think, like you could even have like one single maybe dummy item called, let's just say in the other example, right? Maybe just called screws, right? You could just create one, again, it could be inventory or non-inventory, right? If you're bringing, once it comes into inventory, if you're keeping account of it, it's an inventory item. And not keeping account, you could just have one generic non-inventory item called screws. And then maybe in the description you can change, right? So maybe you're using 3 different types of screws, which you don't want to create as separate items. You just write screws as one item, use the same screws on all 3 lines, and maybe in the description, I'm just suggesting alternatives. Maybe in the description you can give more details about it. So the 3 lines have different data about the screws, like, you know, whatever you want to type, because description is a typable field. If you click on description, Suraj, yeah, this you should be able to type whatever you want. So maybe you just say screws, just one item that you use, and you put a description. Again, add. The next line also says screws. You use the same item, but maybe in the description you use, like, you know, like there are options. Again, this is just one option. If that works for you, we can, or we can think of other things as well. If you are using items which, you know, you really don't want to create separate ones each time, because
Okay, so as a follow-up to this, and offline, obviously, I think I'm going to need to spend time with somebody in order to develop these items and the item classes and categories for these, so that we've really segmented our item list, because we can pull up, we can get all of the maintenance items, for example, and put them in here. I just want to make sure that they're potentially restricted from lookup fields, because everyone doesn't need to see this long list of items. I think we're going to pollute the item categories, the item section a lot if we're adding in every single random little thing.
Hey, what is that expenses? Right next to items, you can click expenses. What is that?
That's just you use a direct account itself to say, okay, I'm coding an expense, right? Maybe like you typically use it if you're having an expense, right? We usually see it like on POs you can, but typically you use it like, you know, like utilities or rent or something like that, where you want someone to code directly something to the GL account. That is when you would use this. I wouldn't think you'd use this for this purpose, but yeah.
Can you use it for, office supplies? Like,
I mean, if you wanted to, yeah, it depends on if you want to do that. If you want people to use like a specific, like you have to set up expense categories, and then you just select the category essentially here and then put the amount against it. I mean, if you wanted to create that many expense categories for this, that is an option. But you know, you see here, right, there are things you can't do. Like on an expense, you don't really have a rate or quantity or anything, right? Because it's not an item. So all you have is like a amount there.
So I could have sworn we saw Chad on Monday, right, where you could have, you bought something and 40% of it goes to K59 and 60% of it goes to whatever. And it was.
Are you talking about the allocation? You're talking about the allocation.
Oh, that was allocation of the expense. Okay. So yeah, so I think well, we can move forward, but I just want to say that I'm going to need to give better direction to our data people for how to fill out the template so that the items are immediately classified and categorized as to what they are for future use.
I think for like your Coke example, you could probably use this.
For an expense, as a category expense thing?
Yeah, maybe, just category
Yeah,
of
we'll have to,
office supply.
we're gonna have to think about this just a little bit more, I think, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a way around it, but yeah.
Okay, yeah.
If this works for you, you could, but yeah, the only thing is you'd have to have a separate expense category, and again, you can see it's limited field here, right? There's no concept
Yeah.
of like rate and quantity and things like that. Like even if we add any custom fields, it's not going to do any math or anything and multiply quantity and rate and anything like that. So that concept doesn't exist here. But if you still think it can work, yeah, that's definitely an option.
Yeah, so just the change in the workflow here, so you guys kind of know where we're coming from, is currently the system is a requisition system, and it is basically tied just to the person entering it in, and then they can enter in they can type in any item that they want and then specify a vendor for that item and the price, and then and they can put 5 different items from 5 different vendors on one requisition and submit that for approval. And then we can go through and either purchase it and it'll create 5 different POs because it's 5 different vendors. This one is saying, here's your, here's a requester. Now you have to buy it from one location, it seems like, right? Or you have do you enter in the vendor here? You entered it in the vendor, right? On the previous page. So yeah.
Vendor is not necessary.
Vendor is not necessary, but the item, I mean, it has to know where to buy it from.
This is still a requisition, right? Again, Suraj, please, you can shed more light on this, but this is just a requisition, which is then going to be converted to a PO. So on the purchase order, you will have more information. This is just saying, hey, an employee might just know minimal information, so that's all he's putting in, and that's why some things are not mandatory. Whereas and then you're kind of converting the requisition into a PO. Suraj, is this you can remind me again, I'm always confused between request and purchase request and requisition. Is requisition the one where you can add lines for different vendors, and then when it comes time to conversion of requisition to PO, that is when it segregates according to the vendor? Is that the one?
Yeah, this is the one, requisition.
Yeah. So
From the multiple requisition, you can create a single purchase order.
Or vice versa as well. You enter requisition for 10 different things that you need from 10 different vendors. Maybe for one of them, you don't even know which vendor it is. You've just said, hey, I need this, right? So when it comes to whoever is like the buyer or whoever converts these requisitions to PO, so they are kind of, figuring that out, figuring what to order, what not to order among them. And then they can separate this single requisition to maybe, 2 POs, or maybe there are 3 requisitions, combine all of them to 1 PO if they're from the same vendor and so on. So
yeah. Because I can see that this is great if, customer service or somebody wants to say, hey, we need to buy this particular straw SKU because we've just received a lot of orders for it or something, and they can see that it's not in the system, and then they put in the requisition, and then Max could purchase it, and it would go to the overseas vendor to say, whatever. I can see that flowing. I just want to come up with a way to manage maintenance parts and office supplies or random weird things. So anyway, let's keep going on. Sorry.
Sorry, regarding the item creation that you were asking help about, so you just need so is it that you need the template? Sorry, I know we were not involved in the item creation, so just making sure. Do you need like a non-inventory item template? Is that what you're looking for? So that
I need to go through probably the item template with somebody to ensure, based on how NetSuite is set up for item classifications or item categories, very similar to how we're doing in the Blends program, because we're making categories for different types of items. And so I want to make sure that we have an overall, sort of continuous process in terms of, from whether we're in Blends or whether we're in items or native NetSuite, like our system is the same. So I will bring that up later, but I want to make sure that I'm getting these items correctly classified, categorized, because when customer service looks up an item, I don't need them to see all the maintenance parts, right? There's only a few people that would actually need to see all of the items in the system, but I want to make sure that I can segregate things based on, maybe even roles that people play. So they're not, by accident, I don't have a straw supervisor putting in a requisition for a machine part.
Gotcha. So you're also looking to segregate the visibility of items. Okay, I think we need to look further into that.
Yeah.
I haven't done that recently, but yeah, we'll check internally as well. And regarding the template, I think Jason should be able to send that across to Aisha's team, right? The way you've been sharing the other templates. I know we weren't sharing items because they were being handled by Jackie's team, but let's send the non-inventory one. And we can kind of discuss the fields or anything in our next data migration call. And Jason, if you could also make a note for us internally to just kind of look into restricting visibility of items.
Sure.
What's the most native approach? If you can look at that as well, just make a note. We'll discuss internally. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so here, as I have entered the requisition, the document number has been provided like REQ04. Now, as I said, my supervisor is gonna approve this requisition. So I'll go back to administrator, transactions, purchase, and requisition list. So all the requisitions that have been entered will be available here. From here, I can create the purchase order. Right, someone will with having the full access of the requisition can create a purchase order from here. Create a purchase order. So on this page, I'll have all my requisition list available, and then I can select multiple requisition from the bottom list. And once I click submit, then all those requests that I have tick marked will be created as a single purchase order, even if I have selected the multiple different requisition numbers from here. So on this line level data, you can see I also need to select the vendors from where I'm going to buy this item. So let me just, for example, I'm selecting this vendor. This is also a vendor list that already available in the NetSuite.
So,
Okay.
Suraj,
So yes,
there is no way to tie this item to that vendor because I wouldn't want us to see all of the vendors. I just want to be able to say that, Danimer Scientific only sells us these items, right? So I can't buy an item that they don't sell us from them.
Yeah. I would also like that to go the other way. There are some items that are only, yeah, it's got to be. I think it's got to be bilateral. Is the these this vendor only sells us these items, and these items are only sold to us by this vendor. I think I want both controls.
Well, the only time, and most systems have this, and I would want to see where it is here, is the only time that makes sense is when you have a better contracted price for a volume from two, you might be able to buy an item from two vendors, but if your volume is higher on the second, on this today's purchase order, you would want to go back to your contracted volume price and buy it from that vendor because that vendor is a different price if you're buying a higher quantity. So there's, and that's why we talked about, we were having these two, we were having a contracted rate or a volume rate and a whatnot. So we will have, items able to be purchased from two different vendors, but we will also want to buy off the cheaper one if our price increased today. So like Duos Rodas was a great example, right? Maddie's like, well, we have to buy such little amount. Let's just buy it from this vendor as opposed to that vendor until we increase our volume, then we can go back to that vendor. So, that's why, but we don't want to see all the other flavor suppliers out there. We only want to see the two flavor suppliers, and then we can determine based on a contract pricing.
Right, the vendors for whom the items apply.
Yeah. So, and I know we talked about that when Sucheta, you were out here, and so we just want to make sure we've narrowed that field there for item to vendor.
Yeah, I don't think we have that in the BRD, so I don't think we have I'm not too sure if we actually captured that as a requirement. But yeah, so here I don't believe, again, Suraj, you can correct me if I'm wrong since you know this feature more. Does this naturally, I don't think it restricts you, like if you have, or maybe we just need to check into it. Under the vendor record, if you have like an item, I think it just lets you buy those from those specific prices. But I don't think NetSuite natively restricts and says you can't buy this item from anyone other than this vendor. And you can correct me if I'm wrong. As far as I know, natively it does not do that. Like we'll need to do some type of customization, but yeah, we can certainly look into that. As far as I know, NetSuite doesn't really restrict that, but we can look into it to see if there's some newer feature which kind of enables to do that. So you want two ways. So you're saying an item should only, so if I select an item here, the vendor list should only show the vendors which that item is eligible for, right? Like you have associated that with that vendor.
That is
What do you mean by, I'm just trying to understand, what is two-way here? Because it's really like, okay, so if you're selecting an item, it should only be vendor, but what's the other way around?
that's fine. No, that's
Yeah, just don't worry about that part. It is specific to this vendor sells us these items. These items can be only purchased from that vendor. And the reason why I say that is something as simple as this thing is not a problem. But when we have 5 or 15 flavors of vanilla, we only want to buy the right vanilla, the one vanilla from that one flavor supplier. We can't, if someone calls out sick or something and it still needs to be purchased, they won't know which vendor supplies this item.
Wouldn't they be able to just look up? So like you have preferred vendors on the item record, right? Which doesn't restrict you from buying from others, but at least it tells you that they are the preferred ones. Would they not be able to just open the item master and, just, I know it doesn't have it here. This is probably not a good example, but on your item records, you are going to have, is this a real item?
This
Suraj,
is a
or
finished
is it
good.
dummy?
Yeah, real item.
Oh, but it's a manufactured one. Okay, you don't really buy this, but
manufactured.
yeah.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah.
have any bought items in the system? Like are there
Yeah,
any?
we have other flavors and like we have other things that we would buy. Yeah.
If there is one, we can probably open that as a better example. Yeah,
So right here, this seal cap, this gold number 155, internal ID 155.
Oh, okay.
Okay, like this is a good idea because we might have 3 suppliers for seal caps. But if we see, 30 places to buy it, we're going to be very confused.
Can you scroll down, Suraj, and go to the vendors tab? Okay, so you don't really have any preferred vendors set on here from what I can see, but ideally you would have a preferred vendor here set to say, okay, this is the person we want to buy from at this rate, right? If there's only one, it's only one. You 3 alternates, you set all 3 of them here. So if it turns out that NetSuite doesn't natively restrict it, which is what I think it is, unless there's some newer feature that they've come up with as an add-on, it usually does not. But let's just say worst case, it doesn't restrict. Is this still an option that they can just look up this item master? They can open the item master and see who's the preferred vendor and then select one of them.
Can they do that within the purchase order? Because are you going to have to, every time you want to buy something, go open up another screen just to see who to buy it from and then go back to your purchase order?
If it's set to preferred, it comes automatically, I believe. Again, Suraj, please chime in here. If it is set as preferred vendor, I do believe it shows up automatically on the other page. The page that when he was on the order acquisition.
Okay, so this one, to set this vendor for Tricor, Vaughn, go back to the vendor thing. I just set this thing for Tricor. Yeah, no.
Tricor.
Tricor.
Yeah, this
that one. Okay, that's probably, potentially a legitimately, I have a 50-50 chance that that's where we buy this item from.
Can we add purchase rate as well, Aisha?
Can we what?
A rate as well? Like at what rate you buy from them? Can we add that as well, like the purchase price?
Oh, the price, yeah. So 0.03 cents, let's just say.
Let's just save this. Okay. So let's refresh that.
So this is creating. So this is creating a PO from a requisition, which probably won't be done a lot on inventory items, I'm guessing.
Sorry.
Not for inventory items, no.
So then if
you haven't created a
Suraj,
requisition.
show us how to create a PO. That might help.
Suraj, we're trying to show not sure if you understood, but we're just trying to show how if it's a preferred vendor, it'll automatically be shown up there. So I don't think we have a requisition for that item, right? I don't think you need to
Yes,
switch to
that's
employee
correct.
center. I think if you here, you
Let
can
me
real
see.
quick create a, yeah, you should be able to do it as admin itself, right? Like you're not creating a purchase request, it's a requisition. So
Mhm. Let me go with maybe the purchase order directly, and
Or
I'll
can we
see.
just, yeah, let's enter a purchase order and just try for that gold heat seal thing and see that it just shows up that that's a primary vendor.
Maybe go to the employee center again, and from there I can select requisition, enter
Well, no, we don't want to,
requisitions.
we don't need to enter a requisition. Let's just enter it directly to as a purchase order.
Okay.
Because everything won't go, no, oh, we could, from the employee center, same thing.
Well,
just-
like you were a buyer.
Yeah, like you're the buyer. So from the employee center, like we're just gonna enter in a purchase order for the item ID 155.
Mac would have more than employee center, I would assume.
In the employee center, we can only enter the purchase request and the requisition, not the purchase order.
this is
Okay.
not a role that counts in your actual
Yeah, okay.
users who
Yeah.
are licensed. So that's why you can only do minimal. Like they don't want you using that like as an actual licensed role.
Oh, okay.
So,
All right. Sorry.
yeah.
So,
I thought you had an employee's thing set up or whatever,
No.
even the requisition should work here. If I enter this as a new requisitions, so it should not allow me.
Yeah, because PO is a separate behavior. So we'll just show you. This might not be the right example for a requisition, but we'll still show you just to show you, because I want to make sure
Oh, sorry.
if it's, like truly needed a customization to really figure out the restriction or if there are other ways to do it. So we just want to see if this works for you, then,
Okay, so just pause right there. So here's the thing. You put in the estimated rate at 4 cents. So actually it was 3 cents. I want to know why we couldn't pick the vendor.
Vendor, yeah, here
If
it
you
is.
click
Only
the
a single
vendor,
vendor is available.
can you
Yep.
click it? So now it came up at 3 cents. So that's what I really want to make sure that the vendor was attached to the item.
Yep.
Okay.
And I think Sucheta, once this is working, like on the item level, when we selected the particular vendor, it's only giving me a single vendor, which is available on the item record.
Yeah.
All I meant to
That
say is in requisition, it does that. All I meant is when you're converting this to a PO, you're not really restricted to only select that is all I meant. Like
That's
NetSuite
correct.
doesn't say you
Yep.
can buy only from this. At a requisition level, it's saying, hey, this is the person who doesn't, their assumption is requisition person doesn't know much. So yes, you have a restriction here. So yeah, you are able to follow it through. All I'm saying is on the other page, NetSuite doesn't say that, hey, you absolutely can't change to somebody else, right? If the who's the one who converts the requisitions to the PO, Aisha? Would that be
That would
buyer
be
or who's?
Max.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah, fire is fine.
So we have the guardrails in place for the values initially, right, as we're learning in NetSuite. So there is going to be the continuous approval process as we work through this.
Yes, exactly.
Because we did talk about. I mean, absolutely. I didn't spec this out in the BRD in terms of I guess it didn't dawn on me that in the purchase order side, I'd have unrestricted number of vendors I could buy something from, but on the requisition side, it is restricted. So because we don't generally funnel everything through requisitions, so we may have to start funneling everything through requisitions, and then convert to purchase orders in order to make sure that we're only buying from the right vendor.
I mean, you will have PO approvals anyway, right? So would that be a second checkpoint? I know some of them are auto approved, but would that be a second set of eyes to make sure the right items are being bought from right vendor and everything?
So when I do an approval, I'm just basically looking to see how much money are we spending. I'm not going to validate that they're buying from the right vendor.
Gotcha.
Right? I need the system to say our contracted price is this. Right, if you are buying this volume, you are getting that contract. That's what we spec'd out in the BRD, right, from a contract perspective. But we didn't. But I'm making sure that watching that cash flow, watching the amount money that's turning, how much are we spending, and then approving it on that process so that managers don't have to walk around saying, "Can you approve my thing? I want to buy this. I want to buy this. Can you approve it?" Right. So but I don't care who they buy it from necessarily. I'm going to assume the system has the right price and the right contract in place.
Gotcha. Yeah, if you are okay with the requisition and then the PO, then yes, like you can see there is a requisition restriction. PO again, like I said, I will look into it and see if there is any add-on or some other feature which allows, but I do know natively that it does not really restrict based on the PO item combination. It does not really restrict. Again, Suraj, if you are aware of something else, please do chime in. But this is the last that I.
Okay, that's fine. We'll work through this and see how it does when we play with it. And then yeah, we'll be okay.
Yeah, and just to confirm, who will be approving the purchase requisitions to convert it to the purchase order? I mean, the converting
That's the one he
requisition to the
said,
purchase
right?
order?
Max, like the buyer.
Max.
That's
Okay.
what he was saying. Yeah. Yeah, let's finish off that process there, like the conversion. We don't need to enter another one. Just finish
Yeah.
the conversion of requisition to PO.
Yeah, so on this page, the latest one that we have created is coming here, and the vendor is coming
I
from the
think
requisition.
Yeah, I think it's because you came. Can you just come back to this order acquisition page from the native ones where it just shows you everything? Yeah, can you go to the order acquisition,
Yeah,
like transactions, purchases, whatever that navigation is? Yeah, not from the specific one. Order
okay.
acquisition. Yep.
Yep, here it is.
Because this is what I think they'd ideally look at, and they'll just see all the requisitions out there.
Yep.
And you can see there, right? Anything that does not, if they did not select I know it's not the right item to use the first one, but just know that as an example, right? If the item, either they did not select the vendor on the requisition, or there was no preferred vendor set on the item, so they couldn't select it. So in either of the case, this is how it appears. And then if you click on the vendor there in the first line, Suraj, if you can
Just a
click.
second. Yep.
Yeah, this is just again just for you to know that this is how it would show up, because nothing is set on the item. So and
Let me
even for
select the
the
same vendor as well.
yeah, and can you click the other one as well, by the way, just to see
Yeah,
if I'm right? You are able to select the
it's
others.
aligned.
That's what I wanted to say. So again, as long as you follow the process and you don't change it, it should work. And then yeah, you can convert it.
So on this both requisition, I just selected the same vendor. So it will create me a single purchase order for this. Submit. Refresh. The status is in progress currently. Yeah. So a single purchase order has been created with both the items. Here is the purchase order. Both the item listed here. So yeah, so this is the process that we have just looked for the requisition part. Another is the purchase request part. So you can see I'm an administrator where I do have all the access of the system. Still, I cannot see the purchase request available here because the purchase request is only available for employee center role. If I go back to the employee center, and here I can create a purchase request.
Okay.
Yep. Just selecting this vendor, just for example, and putting some necessary informations. The 02 might be locations. And if this purchase request or purchase order is coming from the upkeep, that you can enter here the upkeep WO number. Just selecting a item here. So quantity rate is coming from the item records. You can also select the purchase contract related to this this vendor, but I will show you in the purchase contract part later. Add and save. So once the purchase request is saved, this is pending for supervisor approval. So I'll go back to administrator. So in the reminder side, I just, added this like, is there any purchase order to be approved or not? So I can directly go from here and can approve my purchase request, or else I can go to the list of the purchase order. And the latest one is something which is having the pending supervisor approval. Right. And just for example, I added my supervisor as Athira. So Athira can approve this, but as I'm admin, I can, of course, approve this purchase order. So just let me approve it. Supervisor approval tick marked and save. So this purchase request is not now approved and become the purchase order, PO27. And the status can be seen here, like approved by supervisor or pending 6.
Okay, so
Any question?
yes. So we have requisitions that can be turned into purchase orders, and we have requests that can be turned into purchase orders.
Yeah.
And it looks like more information, more inputs are available at the request through the request window.
Exactly.
Okay, so this isn't okay, I'm working through this in my head here. The requisitions don't move to requests then, because that and this is not necessarily something that I want. I'm just trying to get a better grip on it. Because the requisition doesn't have vendors, but if the request does, I feel like that would be the next logical step. Department puts in requisition, junior buyer sees requisition, creates purchase request, supervisor approves purchase request. But whether or not that's in place is kind of not the point. If we need to edit anything at the purchase order level, say like there's an update in pricing, or
yeah, that we can do.
The quantity doesn't match the minimum order quantity, we can do that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The person who is approving the purchase order can change anything.
Okay, good. In terms of
one thing, Max, I just want to kind of clarify, and Suraj, tell me if I've understood this correctly based on what Max just said. There are 2 avenues to purchase order success, right? One is through the requisition avenue, and one is through the request avenue.
Correct.
It doesn't go from requisition to request to purchase order. You go from either a requisition or a request to a purchase order. Is that correct?
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Either of 2.
Either of those ways gets you to a purchase order success transfer. But okay. So Max, I think that's not what you said.
that, I'm curious about the logic built into the system, but this we have confirmed what I'm seeing.
Okay.
I do also want to so in terms of visibility, if somebody either making somebody's making a request, I assume that they can view the purchase orders in process. But from the requisition stage, if someone puts in a requisition and they submit it, can they track at least the requisitions that they've submitted, and the status, whether it's pending approval, if it's been, if it's been
they'll be able to see that.
Secondly, would they be able to see if like there's a pricing or quantity discrepancy in what they entered?
That I'm not sure. I need to check.
Okay, and that's I'm sure there's a way to follow the line through for the person who's looking. I just want, somebody puts in a requisition, they think something costs 5 cents, it actually costs 50. you
Well,
know,
they're
if
at that point, they're looking at the purchase order, Max. They're no longer going
Yeah.
back to the requisition, right? Or the request. So now they're looking at that purchase order, their requisition got to a purchase order. You can look at the purchase order and see that the price changed or whatnot. Because now at this level, purchase order level, now when we'll update ship dates, we'll update freight, transit, freight, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so they will be watching purchase orders, not the request and requisition.
Okay.
And the another main difference is the purchase requisition, the vendor information. But in the purchase request, we need to enter the vendor.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay, so on this screen here, all right, the purchase order is now successfully done.
Mhm.
Email it out.
The email of the purchase order?
Yeah, we email it out. We have to send it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, right. We have to actually buy it.
Yeah, that is possible. I'll show you while I'm creating the purchase order, like standalone purchase order, not from any requisition or request.
But
So
what do we do
during
with
that
this
process,
one?
I'll show you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
but
this
what
one,
about-
Suraj, you can just show it for this one as well, right? Because this one also it'll apply.
Yeah.
To you can go to the communication email button. You could just do it that way.
Yep. So over
Okay.
here, edit, and then we can click on this one to be emailed. And this is the,
Suraj, let's not go the to be emailed route because that doesn't really give you the flexibility. I'd say just do the clicking on the email one because that to be emailed can, it just automatically emails when they save it. They don't really get much of a visibility on, like typing out things and, if they want to change the subject line or anything like that. So I just say click on the email button and show it that way. No,
where
if you
is the
scroll
email button?
right
down
there, down there near your arrow.
Here? Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
That
Oh,
one.
so we can set these to automatically send once they're approved.
Yeah, that is
Right.
a question we had back in discovery, and I think what we were told is at least to begin with, you don't want it to be auto emailed, I think. So I
That's
don't
correct.
think we have an auto email one. Yeah, that is an option down the line, but usually when it's a new system, people don't like auto email right off
Right.
the bat. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to be cautious initially, but that is definitely functionality I'd like to have.
You can put it on your wish list.
Yep. You can add it to the PO approval workflow, but that's what people do who are already comfortable with it. Then at the end of the workflow, once it's approved, and then it just sends it out automatically to like the specific vendor and a specific template and things like that. So for now, you can click this email button and kind of, he'll just show you, what you can do here. So you have some flexibility. Again, you don't need to keep changing these things, but you do have the ability to add additional recipients and things like that. So Suraj, if you can just take them through this.
Yeah. Yep. So over here, the recipient coming from the vendor's informations, right? And also you can select the particular contact detail as well. Email address, what is mentioned in the vendor record. Additional recipient, of course, we can add here, and the email can be entered as well. There are a few more email related functionalities available that we can accordingly select. In the message box, if you want to enter some other more information, that can be possible here as well.
So this is the one, no, go back to message, Suraj. Yeah. So
Mhm.
if you had a set template in the system, if you click on the template drop down, Suraj, you can set a standard one, right? Saying this is what I normally want to use for my PO emails. So then you can just select the template and not have to keep adding any, you don't have to keep typing every time. So if you want, you could set a template and always use that and then just edit it only in the rare chances that you want to write some additional sentences, you can, so you can save some time if you have preset templates. So. Like with standard verbiage of whatever you wanted to have. Yeah.
Yep, and once we merge and send, then
Before you
it
go to
will be
that,
sent out.
Suraj, go to the attachments. Yeah, let's make sure to cover all three. So
over here, include the transactions PDF. So the purchase order PDF will be included in the transactions once we tick mark this one. In any additional, document, if you want to send them, that can be selected from this drop down, and also can be added here. There is one attached document template as well that I'm not sure how it works. I need to check this one. But however, you can, attach your purchase order transaction PDF using this tab.
Can you just click on preview before we click merge and send just to show them? Again, they
Yeah.
won't do this on every single PO, but you can at least take a look
Mhm.
to see what it shows like. So it's just showing you whatever verbiage you had. It's just showing you preview of that. That's all. So you could just click this if you wanted to see. But yeah, otherwise you can X out of this and just hit merge and send.
For the we can set this to automatically attach the purchase order to the email too, right?
I
So
think it
once-
automatically checked that box, Suraj. Didn't it include the
Yeah.
transaction by default? Yeah, it did.
Yeah, I want that as the default because I will absolutely forget to attach it if I have to do it manually.
Yep.
And that
Yep.
would be silly.
Should I
You
click
want-
on the merge and send?
Yeah, you can
Jita?
click. Yep.
Yeah.
You are in Sandbox, right? Okay, just making sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because emails, yeah, just so you all know, in Sandbox, emails don't go out, right? It'll only go to the person triggering the transaction. Like if Suraj does it, he will get an email in his own Outlook to say like, hey, this is what you sent out. It doesn't really go to anyone else. It's only the person sending it, initiating the transaction. So here you can feel free to, play around with any functionality, whereas in production, of course, it will send it to the real person.
Yep. And this is the email that I just received, mentioning the information that we have entered in the template. And the attachment is also here. Let me open this attachment. So this is the PDF purchase order file that we again, pending from our end to, customize this PDF based on your feedback. But yes, this is the standard one.
Okay.
Mhm.
We will have to, yeah, we'll have to update that. But I think Ash and I are already having that discussion.
Yeah.
So I won't worry about that right now because the document is going where I need it to go, which is to Neighbor in this case. So
And the other one, I think you were just anyway going to point it out. I think Suraj, so under messages, you can see whatever email went out, right?
Yep.
So this keeps a list of all emails that have been sent out through this transaction, whether it was initiated through a person clicking the email button, or maybe down the line you added it to the workflow itself, it automatically went out. Either way, all of that will be listed here. And say the email that went out to vendor, if they reply back to that, to the same thread, then that response will also be recorded down here. So you can see that whole, thread of conversation, as long as people keep to the same thread and don't send a separate email.
Yep.
Did I, sorry, did I misunderstand that? You can just send them a regular email through here?
No, you click the email button. If you go to your Outlook and do it, it's not connected, right? It's not going to show up
Right,
here.
but from here, you can click email and just send
Yeah,
them,
yeah, that's what he
hi, how
just
are
did.
you doing? And it'll attach it to this particular record, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And the pop-up that he just showed was his Outlook. I know it might not have looked like Outlook, but what he just showed you previously was his Outlook where he received the email. So yes, you
Yeah.
initiate from here and then
Uh-huh.
it sends it and then it's available in your Outlook. It's just that when you send from here, it's an actual email, so it goes to your Outlook. But if
Yeah.
you initiate from Outlook, it's not gonna go back to
Yeah.
Nets because there's no linkage there at all. That's all. Yeah, that's all I meant.
Okay. And then incoming emails are recorded in here too?
As long as they reply to the same thread, yes. If the thread, because the email that went out, can you open that email from Outlook, Suraj? I think
Yeah,
the
sure.
email address that shows up, which is like a NetSuite. Can you can you maximize this window?
Yeah,
Sent
just
by
a
NetSuite,
second.
yeah.
Can't see where. No.
I cannot increase the size, but
It says sent by NetSuite.
Yeah, you can see. Okay, yeah, sorry,
yeah,
I couldn't see
yeah,
this.
it
I was
is.
hoping you'd
It
zoom
says
in.
it right there.
Yep.
Okay, so even in the incoming email, so if we say, hey, can you change the delivery date or something, or move this up or whatever, and they reply no, everybody then can at least.
Suraj, can you just do a reply all? Let's just pretend Suraj is the vendor. He's anyway getting this email. So if you can just send something random. You can see there, right, while in the sender box on top, don't click Suraj yet. You can see there, right, there's a thread, there's an email ID which, like messages, a whole random number, sb1 email.netsuite. So all of that is what links this to go back to NetSuite. If they remove that thing and then send it specifically to Suraj's email or something, then it won't go out. Like that's how it works. So as long as you keep the thread, yeah, now you can click send and you should be able to see it in NetSuite as well. Once you refresh you need to refresh the screen.
And then while we're refreshing, I just want to point out then that is the same for customer service or order to cash, right? The same functionality on communication?
Yeah, it should be the same. It's a standard across transactions.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
There you
Yeah,
go.
it is.
All right.
The top one is the latest response, I think. Yeah, if you click view, you can see the please change the date.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, this is the same. Anytime, anywhere you see email button, you can do it from a transaction. I believe even your entity records, like a vendor and customer record, also has the button. So anywhere you're initiating these things from, as long as you respond to the same thread, same concept, it gets saved on that record, underneath that, under communication.
Yep. Okay. Coming back to purchase order. So as we just looked into the purchase request and the purchase requisition, but for example, if someone is creating directly a purchase order, so to create a purchase order directly, transactions, purchase, enter purchase order. Over here, select a particular vendor. Yep, date to this date. Subsidiary is coming from the vendor's informations. Test. Then location here, department, just for example, I'm selecting. We can select the upkeep WO number as well, if it is coming from there. At the item line level, let me select one item, for example. Let's say this. So over here, system will show you how many items are there on the hand and how many items are available. We can enter the quantities, let's say just 10, rate, and 100. There are some more information like expected receipt date we can enter as well. And what other information? In the billing tab, the billing address will automatically pop up. I mean, the data will automatically available here from the vendor's information. This is also a SIP2 address of that. Yeah, SIP2 address from of EBP. And in the accounting tab, the terms is also coming from the vendor's record that we can of course change if it is different for the particular purchase order. Similar to, as I said, all the transactions will have few tabs common, like relationship contacts, communication tab, and I think that's it. Regarding the important informations and save. We haven't implemented yet the purchase order approval, so that is pending. That's one of the gap. So we will do it. I mean, that's in process, so it's not yet completed. So that's why it is automatically approved. Once it is approved, it will show you the status as a pending receipt. And what else? Yep. So this is all the information. Now for receiving the purchase order, either we can directly receive from the NetSuite screen, this UI. But of course, as you are using the WMS, I should be receiving this purchase order in the WMS. So just let me confirm the purchase order, that is purchase order 28. Going back to WMS role to open the WMS screen so that I can receive these purchase order items, I can open directly a mobile screen that is similar to your device screen of WMS. Just a second.
Did we
Okay.
go through those fields on the PO, Suraj, the billing terms and address and everything? No.
On the purchase order,
Mm-hmm.
the billing, yeah, I just found the tabs, right?
Okay, sure. Okay, just making sure.
Yep. Mhm.
Nothing should really change because it's all set at the vendor level anyway.
Yeah, as long
Exactly.
as you set right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, in case you have missed it or anything like that, then yeah, you can change it at the PO level. And unless you want to restrict, not being able to change it at a PO level or something, just mentioning that everything that comes from vendor is just the default. Natively, you're free to change it to, add new address or change the terms on the PO as well.
Mhm. Okay. So on this screen, I'll choose NetSuite WMS.
All right, so this is specific for anyone receiving either the maintenance parts or obviously in the warehouse.
Yeah.
It is not being this, yeah, okay.
Mhm. So I'll be selecting a particular warehouse from here, like K59. So there is a receiving option available for me. Receive, and
Sorry, give
then,
me one
yeah,
second. Just one thing, Suraj. Aisha, Jackie went through the setups and everything with you, right? I assume it was on the agenda.
Yeah, so we did quite a bit. We were not, she was not successful in demonstrating the job function and only those screens being visible. So a receiver only sees the receiver stuff. That part wasn't working perfectly, but yes, she did go through the setups.
Setups and the bins and everything you're aware of. Okay. You can go ahead, Suraj. Just making sure that they're already aware of how WMS works. Okay.
yep. So on this page, I'm receiving from the purchase order. I'll select the purchase order here. Here I can select my purchase order from the list, select PO from the list.
Can you go back?
So
Can you click the back arrow,
yeah.
Suraj, 1 second?
Mhm.
So you can see here, right? Then you've probably seen this. I'm not sure if Jackie already showed you, but whichever screen shows you the top, it says scan, right? Anything that says scan, you are able to scan what it lets you scan here, right? It says if it's PO number, then you're able to. So if you had some documentation from the vendor which was attached to whatever they sent you, if the PO number is in there, you can scan that as well. Or you can click it from the list. Again, for now, since we are emulating through our laptops, of course, we're not scanning anything, but just know that any screen that says scan, you have an option of scanning. Okay. Yep, you can select PO from the list.
So PO number 28. So here, all the items available on that purchase order will be available for the selection. I'll be selecting this item. And then I need to enter the lot number of this item. Just for testing purpose, I'm putting some random number.
Again, it says
And of
scan.
course,
If you did, I assume your paperwork would have the lot number there on whatever they sent. You can just scan that in. So.
yep. Also, we can add the expiry date, but I think the lot number is the necessary information. So I'm putting just that information here.
The expiry date will need to be required, but yes.
Actually, well, because we have items that don't expire. We have plastic packaging that comes in that's lot controlled.
Anyway, we'll talk about that later, Max. But yeah, for the 99% of the time, that expiry date's required. So we're just gonna keep it a required field.
So, Suraj, can you click the back arrow and just make sure you enter a date? Yeah, just make sure to enter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's say something from June 30, 2025. Okay. Enter a lot. On this page, I should be entering the number that I'm going to receive. So 10 quantities remaining. So out of 10, I'm going to add maybe 8 and enter quantity.
So Suraj, is the use case you're assuming that they have sent partial, that they have sent only 8? Is that your use case? Is that why you selected 8?
Yeah, I mean just receiving a few of the items, but let me select the full because I need to bill it as well. Then enter quantity. Okay. On this page, I need to enter the bin number here. I'm selecting this bin number for now. This is just created for the testing purpose.
So, and again, before you click on it, Suraj, hold on. So Aisha, again, I'm assuming Jackie went through this with you, but if not, essentially when you are receiving POs, right, you're receiving them into like an inbound staging bin, and then you're doing, it's like a two-step process, right? You receive and then do a put away. So
That is
while
correct.
receiving, it shows you if you have set up multiple staging areas in your system, then it'll show you all the staging areas. But if it's just one single staging bin, then that's all it shows. Right now in the system, we just have one, test bin set up as an inbound staging. So that's why this is the only one it is showing.
No, that's correct. But we have set it up so that the inventory cannot move unless they actually do the transfer and the putaways. So we have not set them all up, the inbound staging areas or the zone locations or bins or anything yet. But we, that is the guardrail that is heavily and very high in place right now. And so yes. But we're good with this. Let's just keep going with this scan, what's entering in the bin, so that they can see this.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So once this process is completed, I can see my purchase order 28 have been put away successfully. However,
Again,
the
this
receipt,
is a misleading term. It's not really put away. It's just been put into a staging bin. So if you click on, so right now, if you go click the
main menu.
No, just yeah, stay on this as well. Don't close this out. Can you go to the PO as well, just to show where it is at right now? Yeah.
Okay.
You can actually stay on the admin itself. The emulator opens up even on admin, I believe. But, yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, if you just go to your recent records or whatever and open the PO, yeah. And then let's go to the receipt because you don't need to do the put away to do the, yeah. Can you click on it? And by the way, this is because it's two systems interacting. This might usually take a second to kind of send the receipt information into ERP and for it to create it. Can you just click refresh again?
The problem is, guys, that our warehouse is not going to do this. So I don't want to.
No, we're just showing you what they don't
Okay.
need to do this. Yeah, I'm just showing you so you know what happens behind the scenes, so you're aware, right? Like we're not trying to do a training session to see exactly the steps they should do. We're just showing you what the system does. Yeah, they don't really have to. I mean, honestly, the warehouse people are probably never even going to touch the ERP side of things, is what I would think. They're probably just on the emulator screen. Can you click on related records again? I don't think it's created.
Yep. What you are looking for here?
I'm looking for the item receipt. That's what I'm looking for.
Receipt number is the different process in the
No.
over here.
The receipt, yeah, even if you, yeah, I don't think we have a two-step process. Do we have a two-step process set?
Yeah, I just tested that if I post, then only it is coming there.
Oh, okay, then Jackie has set up two-step process. Okay, because you don't necessarily need to do that. It depends on the WMS setup. It doesn't need to be a separate posting and then a separate put away. I guess right now we can clarify with Jackie as well as to why it's been set up that way. But yeah, for now, you can post it. Because this becomes like a three-step process really then. It's like a, can you click on that, Suraj? Yeah, just go through the process.
Yep. Maybe that is because the test staging bin is that might be the reason.
No. It's a setup. It's a WMS system preference where you can say,
Okay.
hey, do you want to do separately a posting?
Okay. So if I go inside the receiving again, and this is where I can post the item receipt that I already have received.
Yeah, that's an option. It depends on the setup. So you can go through this process, but Aisha, you can just let me know if you do truly want this process as well, because this becomes like a three-step process. Then it's like you receive.
Okay, so guys, I need to we need to see a process from just however you want to show us a process. We just need to see a process to know whether that's going to work or not. Because even I'm getting
I'm just asking to keep an eye on. Yeah, I get that. I'm just asking you to think about it, just to know that, because not every step is optional. This step is optional, this specific step. That's why I'm just calling it out to you so that you keep an eye out on this specific step in between here. So, yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
all I
So
understood
let's
is that you selected 10, we got 10 into somewhere, and then you backed out to go into a receive process, right? Or a posting process.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
as far as I'm concerned, the guys received 10,
It's
right?
not received into system yet. That's kind of
Yes,
what I'm
it's
trying
not
to tell
posted
you.
yet. So
It's not posted yet.
we backed
There's no
out to go
receipt.
post it now.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So it's
So
been
now
split
we're
into
posting
three
it.
steps. Yep.
Yep. So I'll be selecting this purchase order for posting. So this is the item that we have received already from the different page. And now I can post item receipts. I can click on this button. So here I can see IR21 document number has been created for the item receipts. And this same document number is available in the ERP, in the
And now
purchase order. Yeah, now we can see that item receipt transaction in ERP. So you can see the status will also change, like pending bill, right?
okay.
And coming to related records,
There's
here
a
you can see the item receipts is
okay.
available.
Can you open the item receipt just so they can see what
Yeah.
all details it has? Yeah. Again,
Mhm.
Aisha, we are not trying to do like a training, right? So here we're not trying to show you exact steps that people need to note down or anything. We just want to show you everything that's in the system when it gets created, so that you are just aware of when what transaction appears. So like you saw, right? If you hadn't done the posting step yet, you wouldn't see it here. So if somebody says they've received and then you just don't see it, it's because they didn't post it. So with the current setup,
But
that's how.
I think so. What you're asking though is whether or not from the time they enter that 10 quantity and then
Do you want another posting step?
can it just post at that time as opposed to going back out and having to do a separate post?
Exactly,
That's what you're
exactly,
asking, right?
exactly. Because
Okay.
I don't see that being used unless you really want to have two-step process. People you usually use that second step as more like a, if you want a second set of people taking a look at it in the warehouse before it's actually posted, that's kind of the workaround why they would use it. So if you have something like that, you can certainly use it. But if you don't have a necessity, we can turn that off so that in the first step when they receive, that itself creates this item receipt transaction. So yeah,
So the reason why we have it turned on though is because we
Mhm.
do have a second process. It
Okay.
comes into the warehouse will receive it in, but then it starts to move through the company, right? It goes to either the straw department, the cutlery department, the bottling department. So and when it gets there, then it has to be finally received in. Because I'm going to consider by the time it makes it to its end destination in the company as it has actually been received in.
So when you say end destination, do you mean the actual storage bin? Because
I
that's not
mean the actual department to which it belongs.
okay. So what you just saw, does that accomplish that? Because I
Yeah,
don't
so
see.
what I saw right
Okay.
now is correct because the person in the what is this item? Well, okay, whatever. The person in the straw department, when that material shows up in the straw department, they will post the receipt because they are going to check it that that's what they got,
Gotcha.
and then they're going to go in and they're going to say yes, I've received it, and that's going to be their tag. That's
Gotcha.
how I know that it made it to where it actually goes. Because right now it comes in, and then it's anybody's guess where it goes and when it gets there.
Gotcha.
So
But the
my
only
way of
point
putting,
here is,
pardon?
sorry. No, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm sorry. My so my way of ensuring that everybody is held accountable and the time and date stamp is the secondary. The posting will only happen when it gets to the department to which it belongs.
Gotcha. My only point was that posting step doesn't really move it from one bin to the other bin or something like you saw. It still stays in the same outbound staging
Yeah.
bin. So
So
that's my.
and that's fine. They're going the receiving department in the wherever bottling or straws, they will get it. They will post it because they say yes, it's in front of me, and then they put it away. Like I'm putting that now on them, so that they're
Gotcha.
actually going to they're taking possession of it and they're putting it in the bin where it belongs. So they'll move it from that staging and they'll put it into their bin.
Gotcha. So you do want a 3-step process.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, if that's what you need, then yeah, this works.
That removes all my paperwork. That removes that removes a lot of extra steps that they're doing right now, and it frees up and then the warehouse doesn't just sit with all this stuff, and then we don't know, and Max goes out and looks for everything and blah blah blah, because they are required to move it somewhere because we'll know immediately that it came in. So the
Gotcha.
warehouse is now held accountable because we have a time and a date stamp that they did the first step, and then what did they do with it?
Yep.
They didn't move it, so.
Gotcha. Yeah. I just want to show the receipt to you only because can you click on the inventory detail icon, Suraj?
Here, yeah.
Yeah. So you can see here, right? Like all I wanted to show you was the item receipt is only linked to when you brought it to the inbound staging. Now, as a next step, he'll do the put away. I just want to show you the fact that that's not going to update this here, right? Like this will only show you when you did that step 1 of receiving, step 1 plus step 2 really. In your case, the posting was step 2. So at that stage, wherever the bin it was in, that is all this one will show. Now when Suraj will go back into the mobile screen and do the put away, which is step 3, this is not going to update. Instead of that, what NetSuite creates is a bin transfer behind the scenes, which moves it from the staging bin to the other bin. So that's not going to be linked to the item receipt, by the way.
That's fine. This way, though, we know that it came in. So yes, if we have to pay the bill, we can pay the bill, right? Because step 1 happened. But then if it's
You don't even need to put away to do any further. Yeah, like billing really doesn't matter whether you've done put away or not. That's just an internal process.
No,
like,
I know. So
Yeah.
we cover our bases with everything. We have our internal process covered because we know it came in. So yes, the accounting could pay the bill, but then we can track where it went.
Yep. Yeah, you can close out this. Yeah, and then you can probably go to the mobile screen and just put it away.
Receiving again, and here we can do a put away. Bin put away. From here, I can select the bin that I have just used. And this is what my item that I have used. Then after, there are multiple lots available, and I can select any one of it, or I can enter another one. So let me add,
Test 8, right?
yeah, the test act here.
Yeah, so that screen is just showing you everything that's lying around in staging. So, if somebody hadn't moved yet, it'll just show. But if everybody's doing things promptly, then you probably see only the item you have. So, yeah.
Enter the quantities. Now I can select the bin here, like this one. The entered bin location is not valid. So maybe I can enter a new bin here, right, Sujata?
You can't create a bin. It has to be a bin that exists in the
Yeah.
system. Do you know what you used while
But
this likely could be because if the bins are, again, I didn't do the setup. I think Jackie did the setup. I haven't taken a look at it yet. If there are items which have mixed items in, I don't know if she went through that checkbox field with you, Aisha. I assume she has, but there's a mix items in bins, checkbox on item records. And if that is unchecked, then that means that item is exclusively supposed to be stored in that bin. And if all the bins have such an item, then you won't be able to store items in there. So that might be what happened.
We did, and we talked about that yesterday, and
Yeah.
we unchecked the box, I think. So, well,
You might have created further items in which probably accidentally it is unchecked, not maybe it is unchecked or something. Okay, if you have unchecked it, that means you are not allowing mixing. So
yeah. I mean, because we wanted to, Chuck and I were like, we make sure that stuff goes in the right location, just at least initially. So they, so if it's resin, it goes into the resin area. They can't put it somewhere else. So we were trying to do that, but we haven't made a final determination whether we're going to keep that on or off. So that might be reason why right now.
Yeah, because I think we have only a limited number of bins in the system right now, and I'm guessing every one of those bins is occupied by an item which has it unchecked. So we don't have a free bin really. So that's probably why it's doing this.
All right, so when you click the enter to bin, then you basically have done the bin transfer.
Yeah. Once it does it successfully, it just does the bin transfer.
location is not okay. Some problem. The entered bin location is not valid.
That's what I'm saying, Suraj. I
know
just
that.
described the problem. I just described the problem. Just said.
Yeah.
So So if we create a new bin which hasn't been used by anything, we should be able to select that. But I think you get the idea, right? You don't need us to create a bin and complete
No,
this.
we don't need to create the
Yeah.
bin right now.
Yeah. that's what I-
Yep. Okay. So coming back to ERP. So as we have, this is the item receipts. As I have created the purchase order and the item receipts. So let's complete the full process of this. So after the item receipt, we can do a billing side. So there are multiple ways of create a bill of purchase order. Either we can directly click on this button from the item receipts, or you
Can I
can,
just interrupt? Chat, is Cynthia on? Is she able to watch this?
yeah, that should be there.
Well, okay. All right, anyway, sorry. Just keep going.
We just want to ask, sorry, Chad, if you're on, we just want to know what do they do it in bulk? Because some people we've seen do it like go to a billing page and then just select them in bulk. Is that how they do it? Or would they go to each purchase order and bill it separately? Because it's different ways of doing it. So which way would make sense to show you right now?
To pay several invoices, or
You're not
here's
paying,
the
you're
front-
just creating the bill. Yeah, you're just creating, you've received the vendor bill from them and you're just creating it, right? So I would assume you're doing it individually, I would think, because the vendor is going to
Yeah.
send the bill
Each
out to
invoice
you.
each invoice would be APO
Okay.
generally.
And they don't send you combined, like they don't send you a combined uh invoice, right? It's each PO has its own bill. Like it's not like combined across POs or anything like
I
that.
haven't
Right?
seen too many combined
Gotcha.
invoices. No.
Okay. Okay. In that case, Suraj, you can just go to the PO and then click the bill because they'd never do it from an
Yeah.
item receipt. That would never be realistic. So yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So this is the purchase order where we can create the bill directly. And of course, if I go to the transactions payable, so over here, I can enter the data like bill purchase order. So from here, I can select the particular purchase order, and from there, I can create a bill. So before I create the bill, I just want to inform you that three-way bill match is also there. We have already enabled the three-way bill match. So let's do some variance as well over here. So for example, for this bill, if I do enter everything as it is, which is coming from the purchase order, and I save, then this will automatically be saved and there is no approval process is required. However, if I change the values, like let's say 20, just doubling it up and click OK.
And just as a use case, so the reason he is doubling it up is
Yeah.
let's just assume that the vendor sent a bill with the rate as 20, right? Maybe they made a mistake or
Yeah.
maybe what it truly is. And before you save it, Suraj, just make sure you put a reference number. I think we should make that mandatory probably, but because for bills, that's how you refer to them. Like it's not the native, there's no bill number, it's the reference number, which is bill number that the vendor would have sent. So let's just make sure to put a number or something, yeah, which makes sense. Yeah, just put a random set of numbers. Yeah, just type in some numbers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, on this bill, as you can see, all the data are coming from the purchase order itself. However, on the billing side, all the information is also coming from the purchase order, but you can change if you want to change something. Other tabs are similar to all the transactions. So coming back to items, right, and save this bill with different rate. Yep. So as you can see that as the item data, the purchase order information and the billing information is not meshed, it's showing me this as a pending approval, and my supervisor that I have set as Athira here can approve this transaction for me. right? And on clicking on bill exception, system can show me what is the reason for this pending approval. So you can see the bill amount exceeds the purchase order amount. So that's the reason the three-way bill match, showing the pending approval status. Now to approve this, as I said, Athira can approve, but as I'm admin, I can approve from my end. So
Hold on,
yeah,
Suraj. Before you approve, like if you think of it as a realistic situation, right? It's not just about approval, right? If there is a discrepancy, I would assume, Chad, you'll be going. Is it like who will be? I'll assume you'll talk to the vendor, right? Because it's like, hey, the PO had $10. Why did you send a $20 bill, right? I'm assuming someone is like discussing with the vendor to figure out what the issue is, whether it was the PO that was sent incorrect, or when and this is the actual rate, or maybe they made a mistake. I'm assuming there's going to be some back and forth with the vendor.
Yes.
Vendor or buyer, yeah.
I mean the
Buyer.
vendor, the people who sent it to, like in this case, the Danimer Scientific, like the supplier. You're going to be talking to them and seeing why they sent you a bill which doesn't match the PO that you sent, right? So you're going to have a conversation.
Yep.
And I'm assuming
Well,
one of two things happen, right? Either they tell you, yeah, $20 is the right one, that is what you should have purchase it for in the first place, or they tell you we made a mistake and they send you a new bill. I'm assuming one of these two things happens, or is there something else?
the other version is we fat fingered.
Okay.
So yes, one of
Okay, so then it
so
would
yeah,
depend on what you do depends on that, right? So if uh, so when you say fat finger, do you mean fat fingered the bill, or do you mean fat fingered the original PO itself? The bill, I assume.
the original PO put in,
Okay.
typed in 10 and it should have been 20. It happens.
Gotcha. Suraj, you can just take us through what you would do in each of those scenarios. If they fat fingered, what would they need to do? Where 20 is the right one, but they entered it as 10.
So my understanding from Jackie yesterday is that, at least on the order picking side, that if you've done something on the scanner, if you've received it or you've done whatever on the mobile version, you have to undo it on the mobile version. Is that the same case here? If they fat finger it?
I don't think you would need to do that. Again, Suraj, I'm assuming you're going to take us through that process. I'll let you discuss it. Otherwise, if you're not, then I can talk about it.
yeah, please, Sujata, go ahead.
Yeah, so you have, again, it really depends on whether, like in our case, we really didn't use any inbound shipments or anything, right? This is like a domestic one. So in this case, you are able to.
Shut I don't understand. Inbound shipment and it's a domestic one. I think that the one clarity I want to know is that if it's done on the scanner, does it have to be undone on the scanner? Because
No. This is not a scanner issue, right? Like the use case that we are talking about is somebody fat fingered the rate on the purchase order. Nobody made any mistake on the scanner, right? It's more like while
Oh, I
entering the
thought Chad
PO.
said we received 20, but it should have been 10. We received 10, but it should have been 20 or something. Like I thought.
No, I
This
meant
is the
the rate.
rate we were talking about,
Oh,
not
the
the code.
rate. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. We're talking about the rate.
All
So
right.
yeah, so if the rate is incorrect on the PO, so nobody did anything wrong on the scanner. It's just the PO entry thing. So you have an option of, going into the reason I'm talking about shipment again. You do know that there's the concept of inbound shipments, right? We spoke about it on Discovery. We will show that too as well. I believe you said you're going to use shipments only, I think, on international ones. I think that's kind of why I mentioned only for overseas containers. You mentioned you'll use inbound shipment. The reason I mentioned that is the process that I'm going to talk to you about, what I'm going to mention right now, only applies if you don't have a shipment involved. So if there is no inbound shipment record involved, then you can go into the purchase order. So if you go to the purchase order, Suraj,
Yeah.
you are able to like update that to say, open it on a new tab. Yeah, yes, please. Thank you. So if you click on edit here, and you scroll down. So this was a mistake that you entered 10. It was supposed to be 20. So you update the rate to be 20 here.
Mm-hmm.
Not 200, 20.
No, yeah, it will. Just a second. 20.
Yeah, that's fine. It's just
$800
giving you a
below.
warning saying, hey, you've
Yeah.
already built. So yeah, let's say yes, click save. And then we need to, I believe, go into the item receipt. And then yeah, can you go to the item receipt as well? Yeah, and then if you click edit, system should let you update it here as well.
Now on the bill side, you want me to edit?
Yeah, no, you don't need to edit
Request.
because this one is correct, right? This is 20. Right? So you have fixed it all along the way because this was a fat fingering error, and then they should be free to whoever's the next approver to with whom it lies, they are able to approve the bill, right? Because in this case, that is all it is. So what I was saying is
Yeah.
what I just did of editing PO, editing receipt, you're able to do that. Just make a note that you're able to do that only if you're not using an inbound shipment, which represents like an overseas container, because in that case, there are more transactions involved and some of those transactions don't allow an edit. So, which doesn't matter right now with this example, but yes. So anytime you're not using inbound shipment, if fat fingering error happens this way with rate, this is what you would do. You just select that, right? Versus if the issue was the other way around where vendor sent you the wrong bill, right? Maybe what you sent as 10 was the correct one and they just maybe fat fingered on their end and they sent you 20, right? In that case, you would directly edit this bill itself. They'll send you a new bill. You'll update the reference number. You'll put the rate as 10. Or if you wanted to note the fact that they earlier sent you one, you could even void this bill and create like a new bill. But so the recourse of what you do really depends upon what the error actually is after you figure it out. Does that make sense, Chad?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, so you would show, I assume the next step would show the approval.
Yes.
Yep.
Are you pretending that you are Atira? Is that Suraj? Is that how we are going?
Yeah, currently, yes.
But
Other,
but if Atira logs in, doesn't she see an approve button or does she have to click edit and then set the status? When they see an approve reject button at the top?
most probably yes, but I haven't connected with Athira on this, but yes, there must be some button over there because this is standard,
Yeah, please
three-way
do.
match.
Please do make sure that you know we kind of get clarity on that to make sure
Yep.
we show it the right way in the next round walkthroughs. So I believe it shows an approve and a reject button for the actual approver. Again, in this walkthrough, we're just trying to show you functionality, not really getting hung up on roles. That's why we are in admin. So you see a lot more things that a regular role would see. So yeah, for now you can just change the status there.
Yep. So here I can change the status to approved and save.
So the three-way match approval is really not like a supervisor approval, so to speak. This is just to figure out the issue with the vendor, make the correction, and then you're just posting the correct bill is really what it is.
Yep. So on this one, I was also wanting to show you the vendor, what I say, variances, right? So in case, but this is the bill has been created. So let me just delete this one and create a new bill for this particular purchase order again with the different rate. In case if we, say, okay, even though the purchase order was having a $20 as a rate, we are accepting the bill of 22, just for example, so that we can see the variances, how it is posted.
Yeah, so the alternative that Suraj is referring to, Chad, you can continue, Suraj. Or I was just trying to say the alternative that he's talking about is if you didn't want to edit the PO and the receipt, and instead you wanted to post the difference to like a separate variance account, then this is kind of the process that you would follow. Do you want to just
Yep,
create a,
comment
did you
is
create a
wrong.
new bill? Maybe you want to create a bill for a different amount so that we don't need to edit this. Is that what we did?
Yeah, I'm just creating a, I have
New bill?
deleted that bill. Yeah,
Ah, okay.
and
Gotcha.
I'll be creating a new bill again because I just deleted the original one.
Gotcha.
Mhm. So coming back to this, so system by default taking the $20 because we have changed on the purchase order and the item receipt itself. But for example, I'm putting here as a 25, not 20, and save. Sorry, I need to put the reference number, but I just missed it. Okay. So as the amount is not matching with the purchase order, it's again showing me the pending approval. Let me approve it for now. So as the bill is approved now, so you can see the amount is on the bill is 250, but on the purchase order it is 200. So difference is 50. So 50 can be posted as a separate transaction.
So let's just show the GL impact of, because I believe
Yeah.
it's the accrued purchases which has, so if you can just open both receipt and bill and we just look at the GL impact. Yeah.
Mhm.
So the accrued, what is that? 2030 has 250. If you go to the item receipt.
Yep. Let me open that. Purchase order 20, this one I believe. Purchase order 28, GL impact. So this is the item receipts GL impact,
So you
which
can
is
see the
200.
2030, the accrued expense is the first line, right? It is 2030 and the other side, the debit is 250, right? So that's where you have the $50 variance, right? Because you didn't really, so this is a use case where we are not correcting a PO or something, right? This is again, this is just an accounting thing, really. It's up to you how you want to manage this. But if you did not want to edit the PO and the receipt, NetSuite has the posting
But
variance.
should go, the $50 should go to inventory, or the original. Yeah, that 1230,
Yeah.
because now you're gonna leave
Yep.
a $50 debit balance in the 2030 account.
Mhm. It depends on the item records that what I defined to be selected. But of course, we can select by default this particular inventory item to be recorded in the variances. So let me show you the how the original.
And that's
Hmm.
by PO, right, Suraj? Not
Yes.
every, okay.
Yeah, that's only the single PO that we are talking about.
Right, but that variance isn't gonna go to this 1230 for every PO. It's just for each PO, it'll go to that GL that it's originally tied to. Whether it's inventory
Yes,
or a fixed asset or whatever the case may be.
exactly. Yep,
Okay.
it depends on the item record. So yes, when you post the variances, it will collect the item data. Yep. So going back here, transactions, purchase, and then, sorry, in the payables, here you can see the post vendor bill variance options. Let me open this on the new tab. On this page, I can select uh, uh, one of the purchase order or all the purchase order which is applicable for the bill variances. So I can see the purchase order 28 is here, and at the top level, you can of course select the journal entry date that you want and the posting period of this journal entry date, which is generally the same month which this date belongs. I can create the journal entry from here. Oh, bill variance account is missing, of course, because I have used the new item here. So just let me see in the item receipts. This is the item. Add it. Okay, in the accounting section, I'll put my variance account number. So here it is. So I'll put as you said, you want to have in the same account. So I'll put the same account here, like 1230. And price variance also the same one. Okay, now I can save this record. Yep, coming back to this, refresh, selecting this purchase order, create journal entry. So this is the journal entry that system has created for the bill variance, JE28. Approved for the posting vendor bill variance. And here you can see your raw material has been now debited by 50 and accrued expense is credited by 50, which is the difference of these two, the item received GL impact and the bill GL impact. Any question on this part?
So it doesn't automatically do it. We have to create journal entries every month.
Journal entry every month. That's what you are saying. I mean, in that case, you need to process this every month on the last day if you want to.
But it doesn't automatically do it when you do the bill.
When we do the bill,
No, there is no
no.
automatic posting. That's what he's asking, Suresh. Does this posting happen automatically? No, you'd need to go to the page and post the variances. Yeah.
Even though, okay, so he set up the item after the fact to the variance account, so he won't post it automatically.
Yeah, it won't. It's not an automatic process. Yes, you have to go to the post
So
vendor.
this would be one of those recurring journal entries that need to go do.
It's more like a process that, I mean, I don't know if it's a recurring journal because the amount is not going to always be the same, right? It's more like a
But
recurring.
no, recurring meaning monthly.
Yeah. It's more like you can, probably have a reminder for yourself.
Yeah, a
saying, hey, I
checklist.
need to post. Yeah.
Okay.
Is there a dashboard reminder? Can you quickly check, Suraj, just for posting? Like, is there a link to?
Sorry.
And I know accounting month end was on another thing, so we don't need to go to that here, but
Yeah, just saying variance. Is there one? Okay, no, there isn't one. Okay, now. But yeah, it's something you'd have to probably set like a recurring task or something for yourself. You can select tasks, create tasks in NetSuite for yourself and have it as a monthly thing saying, hey, review, post and double variances or whatever it is. So yeah, you can do that.
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay.
The other thing I just want to make sure we cover, Aisha, what was the variance scenario that you were talking about? Do you want us to cover that?
Variance. Oh, well, so if you mean on the purchase order?
Yeah, when we were going through this process, you were talking something about quantity and you mentioned something about the scanner. Sorry, I didn't fully get
Yeah.
that.
On the WMS side, I guess.
Yeah, on the
Yeah.
WMS side. So I think what I was curious to see also is, okay, so we ordered 10. Initially, we started doing 8, and I thought that was great because then I could show 1 damaged, right, or 2 damaged, basically. So how we would be able to show that discrepancy in the receiving, because I think that Eagle does a very bad job of claiming damage when something arrives. Sometimes it's because it's a lot of times the carriers are sort of drop and go, and by the time we get to receiving it, we're out of time, or we didn't really see it upon notification to actually sign that it was received damage. So one of the things that I'm hoping, with NetSuite is that we're a little more real time because it's a little bit faster for us. But I want to see what that return damage, because I saw you had a drop down for condition of the thing was said good, but if there was something that said damaged or bad, so they could receive an 8, damaged 2 out, and then what that looked like from the billing perspective. But I know we just went through this whole thing, so that doesn't matter. We can always look at that later on a use case scenario when we do a training or something.
Gotcha. Yeah, just to theoretically talk about it, yes, you are able to. So I would assume, from what I understood so far, if the 2 are damaged, you are still receiving them. You're just receiving them into a different status. So it's not like you're just receiving 8, because I feel like I remember, again, I could be misremembering, but I remember you were talking about some cases where you don't even receive it into inventory and vendor sends someone to kind of pick it up, type of thing. So if you want to follow the process and do like a vendor return authorization, in that case, yes, you will be receiving all 10. You'll receive 8 and say these are in good status. then you will separately receive the 2 in there and put them in the other damaged or whatever the inventory status we have set up. So that would still, you would still, you would still bill the whole thing, by the way. So the process would be, you are still billing for the entire 10. You are creating like a vendor return authorization. You ship out 2 of them. They give you a vendor credit for 2 of them. You apply that vendor credit to the bill so that for 2 of them that nullifies that way, and it's only the remaining 8 that you have to pay for. Does that make sense? So that would
Yes,
be
except that a lot of times the stuff arrives and it might be leaking or whatever. It's not a returnable item. It's just we are claiming this damage because the sugar all over the place, or something like it's.
so they'll give you a credit, right?
Yeah, they'll give you the credit, but this is not a return, right? So we're not looking for that RMA. We're just looking to apply a vendor credit or to
Yes.
tell them we're going to take a vendor credit.
Yeah. So in that case, you can still receive. So the receiving part is still the same. You still receive 8 as good, 2 as damaged, and then there's no return authorization. There's directly a credit, and then that credit is applied to the bill. So that's the same way. The only thing is the 2 that you have received in a damage, since you're not returning it back to them, you just create an inventory adjustment and write them out of your inventory, right? You want to get rid of it because I'm assuming you can't do anything with it anyways. So you just write it off. You just create an inventory adjustment to get that out of your inventory. So
Okay.
that would be the process.
Yep. Okay, so we just covered till the billing part. So let me cover a few other topics related to this, like when we are purchasing from the overseas vendor and we are going to do an inbound shipment, instead of item receipt, we are going to do it through the inbound shipment. So
And Suraj, is that when you're going to cover landed cost? I saw that we didn't really talk about
landed cost, I will have a separate transaction for that.
Okay.
Landed cost. Yep. After
Yeah,
this.
I mean, otherwise we could just combine it in the same one. When you're showing the shipment receipt, we could probably just do it there for the sake of time.
Maybe, yeah. So let me do it the landed cost right now.
Yeah, let's cover that first and then go to shipment.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's for this, but not purchase. Let me see what item I have used here. No. Yeah. So let's change the topic and let's talk about the landed cost first. So in the landed cost, the template is available on the list, accounting, and landed cost templates. This template helps me to calculate landed cost for each and every purchase order where this is applicable. And this will estimate the landed cost for me on the receipt transactions. And of course, at the time of billing, you can have a separate billing for those landed cost. So here I have 2 samples for the landed cost. So let me just view one of this, edit. So on this landed template cost, I can put the name of this template here, and then at the bottom section, I can select the cost categories, right? For here, I just selected 2 cost categories for now, just for example and testing purpose. So let's say I just chose the freight cost as a cost category, and how the freight cost is calculated on the item, so that I can decide here that okay, the freight cost should be based on the weight of the item receipt, and whatever would be the weight, it will be multiplied by 0.5. So this is my cost factor, and whatever the amount will come, it will be considered as a estimated freight cost. Same way, insurance, I chose the cost category in the over here, and then from this drop down, I can select the percentage value of the item receipt, and that I chose here as 2, like 2% of 2% of my total of the item receipt value should be my insurance cost, so that I can decide here. However, regarding the cost categories, our system gonna understand, okay, what expense account is gonna impact if there is an insurance related landed cost is there, so that we can define in the accounting list. Just a second here, that we have gone through in the record to report session. So I can choose here the landed cost. I'm just going faster here because this is just for information purpose. Cost categories. I'm just looking into that.
At the bottom.
Sorry. Yeah, here. Okay, on this cost categories, you can see I have one test freight cost. I can click on the view. And on this page, I can decide the expense account that is going to be impacted whenever this cost category comes into the picture. All right, so that is 5210 freight in. Coming back to the landed cost template. So this is how the landed cost template that we can create. Once the template is created here, we can go to the item. Let me open this item, for example.
And just to remind Chad, if you remember our discovery, discussion, basically since we said we want to switch over to like the estimated landed cost method. So this is where, we were talking about where you come up with a formula, you can have set like what you want to use. Again, you can have just one template to begin with if you want, or you can have multiple templates, maybe for different item categories, you want to use different formulas. So you are able to do that, or if you want to start with just one, you can just apply the same landed cost template across all items. So that's just the estimation that you are coming up with to the best of your knowledge.
So the estimated cost will hit inventory.
And
Correct.
the expense account and the expense account. The expense account that he just showed on the cost category page. So the other side of it will hit that.
Yeah.
Did you close that page already, Suraj, or do you have it open?
I saw the account, but I'm confused with what you just said.
It hits both sides, right? It needs to hit a debit and a credit. So it increases the asset amount by that value, right? If your insurance ends up getting calculated based on your formula, if the insurance ends up being $10, so $10 is getting added to your asset account. And on the other side, like I forgot the debits and credit side of it, but basically on one side it hits the asset, and on the other side it hits the expense account. So it increases your asset value by $10, and it also hits that insurance expense account by $10. So both those accounts are hit when you do the item receipt. Suraj will show that in a second, but that
Okay.
it just hits
Yeah.
both. Yeah, he's going to show you that.
Yeah.
I was just
Yeah.
mentioning about that template that we just showed because that
Yep.
is something we look for you to create. So yeah, because we just have really dummy values just to show you in this session. That's obviously not a real template. So yeah, you can just you can go ahead with the next setup. So.
Thank you. Yep. Thank you, Sujata. So over here, for this particular item, let's say for this item, I need to tick mark here, like track the landed cost. Then only system will calculate the landed cost for me for this item. And then I do have one more. Yeah.
I think you might want to use a more realistic item because this is, I think, something that they manufacture. Maybe let's just use the, I believe in the list of items. I think it was, what was that earlier? I had referred to. It was, I think it was the bottle.
The cap.
The
One-
cap.
Internal ID 155 was one row up.
155. Yeah.
Just
One up.
155.
You can do a control F
Right
if you
there.
don't find.
Here it is. This one, right?
Mhm.
Correct.
Okay. So for this item, I'm going to select track landed cost from here. And this is the tab for landed cost template where I can select the template which is applicable to this. So might be I will choose let me choose this one, template 2 for now. And we can of course select multiple templates here, and out of those we can one of that we can prefer. At the time of purchase order, you can at the time of receipt or purchase order, you can still select one of the templates which is mentioned here.
And so what you are doing right now in the UI with doing the updates on the item master, selecting all this is part of the CSV template, right? They are able to do both these steps when they are importing items, correct?
Yes. when
They
they are
don't need
going
to
to
manually
import
come
this.
into each item and do this, right? You can just do this as part of the CSV import. Okay.
Exactly. But as the inventory item is taken by Jackie, so I think we need to have provide them another sheet to take care of this if it is not covered there.
Yeah, I think it should be able to be added to that same template, but yeah, just please make a note to just talk to Jackie and see if she needs to add it or if it's already in there. So yeah, okay.
Okay. Template. Okay. Now coming back to this, so the primary setup has been completed for this item. Let me save this. Okay. Now I'm going to have a purchase order quickly for this one, for this item. Vendor. Locations. And the item was 4x1 3007.
That's not the right item. I think the one that you might want to open your recent records and see. Yeah, the 1110 was the straw. So yeah.
This one 3002.
Yeah, not 07. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So over here you can see that whenever I'm entering the data, let me have one rate here. Just for example, maybe I will choose 20 as a quantity and let me choose 10 as a rate. And at the last, you can see the template for the landed cost has been chosen by default from the item records and save. I can do the receive from the SCM mobile, but I have noticed, Sucheta, here that it is showing me an error for the landed cost. So for now, I'm just going through this receive option from the UI itself, and later on I will check why it is not allowing me to calculate from there.
Okay, yeah, just make a note to make sure, verify that. And if we need to check with Jackie on the setups, so let's make sure to do that.
So this is my purchase order 29. This is the same page item receipt that generated generally from WMS side. So at the bottom section, you can see system has already have considered my template, and then calculate estimated landed cost is also tick marked. I also need to tick mark this landed cost per line, and received all of the quantities and save. Maybe the inventory details, I need to put some data here. And okay. There. So once you save it, I can go in the item receipt transaction in the landed cost tab, and you can see it has already created the estimated landed cost for me. I have chosen the different template for the landed cost, that is this template 2, where you can see my insurance is 0.5% of the value, and the freight cost, I consider the quantity just for example, and 1. So my 20 should be my freight cost. So coming back to this page of the item receipts, where you can see my estimated landed cost, that is 20, calculated from the formula mentioned in the template, and 1 based on the value, that is 0.5% of the value, something like that. So that is $1, just for example. And if I go to the GL impact of this one, so this is the important part here, that you can see that my inventory account is debited, and then my insurance expense is credited by $1, right? This is from the item receipts, where you can see my inventory value has been increased by my landed cost. and appropriate value has been credited to the related freight, the landed cost related expense accounts. When I'm going to bill this, right, the billing part is still pending. So when I'm going to bill the landed cost, at that time, my insurance will become debit, and accordingly, the bank account or the account payable will be credited. This is for child. Okay. So in that case, when you combine the billing side and the item receipt side, you will find that your insurance expense will become zero. And at the end, your inventory will be debited and it will be credited with the account payable when you combine the billing side and the item receipt side. So this is the item receipts. Now I'm going to create a separate bill for this one. Let me see the payable enter bill. This is just for landed cost, nothing related to the purchase order billing. So I can select a different vendor, maybe a shipping company. So I just choose one of the vendor. Okay. Over here,
Before we move ahead,
yes.
sorry, I just want to check. Chad did everything, the GL impact, everything. Did that make sense? That's kind of what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, so far I want you to see the bill part that he's on.
Okay, yeah, but you get what I meant earlier, right? You can see on the GL impact both the sides of
Yep.
it, the expense account and the asset. Okay.
Yep, that's exactly what I needed to see.
Here I have created one landed cost related item that I need to choose, like let's say freight.
Suraj, here, can he just select the expense account directly, the freight expense account, or does he need to select an item necessarily?
He can select the expense, but there should be one categories available. I need to check whether the categories pop up here or not. So let me first. I have already created. I already created one.
Yeah, I understand that. Just as a process, whether they will do it or not, that's why I'm asking. We need to know that and convey that information so that they don't need to unnecessarily create items unless they absolutely need to. So, Jason, if you can just make a note of that, that would help.
So this is the landed cost category where I can select this item. This freight cost item is belonging to this category, so I should be selecting this here. And then another test account, test item, that is insurance part. And I'll be selecting the related cost category so that it will post correctly. And let me have the value.
Sorry to interrupt. But again, so this step essentially is where you are receiving the bill from your third party, whoever is the one who's taking care of your freight, right? Your inbound freight.
Yep.
Again, if the same company, again, insurance, all of this is just an example. If it's the same company, then you'll have it on the same bill. If the insurance bill comes from another person, then it's again going to, of course, be a separate bill. But the concept is basically that it needs to come onto a bill so that it hits the expense account and kind of clears it out. So that's the idea. So, okay, go ahead.
So you can see that I have entered all my values here, similar to my estimation. Of course, the estimation and this can be differed, right? But currently I'm putting the.
Let's have it different, Suraj, because
Okay.
Realistically speaking, you're probably gonna, your estimation is just going to be very close to it. It's probably never going to be exact.
So this would be my landed cost, which is different than the estimated one, and let me approve it as well so that my GL impact will be posted.
This, by the way, this is like a standalone expense bill. So this had nothing to do with three-way match. I believe that the current workflow, all expense bills go through approval. Correct, Suraj? Is that how we have it set up right now?
I think we need the discussion on the vendor bill approval is pending, I guess. That's what we have mentioned in the BRD. There is no billing approval of the standalone bill currently?
There is an approval, right? You had to approve it. So basically, every single expense bill will go through an approval. It'll get into pending approval, and then the supervisor has to approve. Like that's kind of how it is right now. So once we finish this landed cost topic, yeah, we just need to kind of cover on what you need it to be instead of what it currently is. So yeah, for now, let's move on.
Okay. So this is the bill of my landed cost, and let me go to the GL impact that is available here. So you can see my freight expense is debited, and the earlier at the time of receipt, you can see my freight expenses was credited. Of course, the amount is different currently, but if it was same, then it will become zero. Your freight expense and this insurance expense will become zero. And everything is gonna be added up to your inventory items. That is this. Sorry, this. Now, as there is,
Go to the bill again real quick.
Yep, so.
The bill GL impact. Okay.
So now, as there is a difference between the values, so the standard practice that I understand, of course, Sucheta can you can come in and tell us that what would be the best practice. But this is what I understand is as there is a difference, so you should come here, edit the item receipt, and put the correct landed cost so that your debit side of GL impact, sorry, credit side of GL impact will match with your billing. So here on the landed cost, on this icon, if I click on this, so I can have my estimated landed cost, which is mentioned here, and that I can correct, like 2 as my insurance and freight cost as a 25, which is matching with my billing. Click OK, save. And once you save, the GL impact will be updated because earlier it was estimated. Now I'm putting the correct one in the item receipt. GL impact. Now my insurance has been corrected to the actual one matching with my bill, and the freight also $25. And if you compare now, then it will become zero.
So Chad, this is not necessarily what you need to do. This is just an option if you wanted to do it, if it is realistic. Again, right? You don't necessarily need to. I've seen lots of clients who don't really do this process. But if you do want to match up each time you receive the bill, because your initial estimate was based on your best guess of a formula that you came up with on the estimated landed cost template. So if you always want to correct it once you receive the actual bill, you don't want there to be like a balance left in that expense account, you want to correct it, you can go back to item receipt and kind of do this. But if you don't want, again, it really depends on the volume that you have and whether you're able to realistically do it, right? Because with some clients, what we've seen is they kind of send you like a lump sum freight bill or something where you might not necessarily know for this specific PO it was this much, right? They might just say, hey, for these 10 POs, this is the freight amount or something like that. And if you're not really able to segregate, then you might not be able to do what Suraj just showed. Or it could also be that, maybe you receive this freight bill in a later period, right? Maybe the item receipt was in a past period and you've already closed that period. You don't want to reopen. So it's just an option what Suraj just showed. If you want, you can go and correct it on the item receipt and update it to the actual if you want. Otherwise, you can just let it be. What a lot of clients do is they just let it be so that they see the remaining. Like in this example, I think it was $25 and $20, right? Was it $5 difference on freight, Suraj? Was it $5 or $3?
It was 21.
$5.
Yeah, so you just use that as a analysis point to be like, okay, I have a variance, right? When you start seeing bigger variances, then it's like, okay, maybe I need to fix my formula. Maybe I need to make my formula more accurate or something like that, right? So it's just different options. You can just follow whatever makes sense for your business based on how you receive the bills and everything.
But I mean, here we're doing it the same day, right? The receipt and freight bill, and that's obviously not going to happen. Freight bill could be 2 months later.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm carrying a credit in my expense, but I probably would change it to a balance sheet account.
Yeah, you could even, yeah, you could do that, or you can even move it later on. So yes. So when you say balance sheet account, would you set it directly on the cost category itself? Like how he used 5210. So instead of 5210, would you be using a balance sheet account, or do you mean you'll just move the balance into a balance sheet account, just the variance?
I would use instead of 5210 Bradian, I would use a balance sheet account.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, we will send you the link if we haven't already to all the cost categories set up in the system, because I think we just set them up as like test freight, test insurance.
Yeah.
So you can
No,
probably
we've
just,
got it,
yeah.
but I wanted to see this before,
Yep. Yep.
because putting an account in there didn't make sense until I saw this.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So let me make a note on that.
So I think the only part of this that you need to create manually, by the way, again, Suraj, you can correct me if I'm wrong, in the entire setup that we showed, it's the landed cost template creation that he did. I believe that has to be manually created, but I wouldn't even think you need a CSV option, because it's not like you're creating like a ton of templates, but just know that that is something you have to come into the system and create that template. Again, we can send you the navigation and everything, but yeah, it's a manual
So is
process.
the template on an kind of on an item basis or a vendor basis?
Item basis.
Okay.
Yeah, so like I said, right, you could just have one template and apply across all items, or if you wanted to have multiple items, maybe for different categories, you have different formulas, you can associate them, but yes, they are associated at an item level, and then they just default on the purchase order, and then they get applied automatically on the receipt. Yeah.
All of our inventory vendors.
Sure. All right. Yep. We'll look at it.
Okay, sounds good. I think Suraj, you can move on to the inbound shipment one now.
So let me have a purchase order ready for that. I do have one. Just a second. Yep, similar to this. I just created a separate vendor for the overseas one. So let me create a make.
Just as a
copy.
reminder, while you're creating it, you can continue to create. I just want to remind just everyone of what the context is, right? So I believe for overseas shipment, it's say like they send it in a container, right? You have like 10 POs, they are sending them together in like a container. So that is what we are trying to track in NetSuite through the inbound shipment record. So that is what he's kind of showing you. And again, you could use the same concept for your domestic if you ever needed, like if there's a truck containing like 10 different POs from the same vendor. If you did have that in domestic, you are able to use it, but I believe you said for now your use case will only be overseas. So that's kind of what we're showing you. So Suraj, let's make sure to use like a couple of POs. Maybe the one that you
Yeah,
already have,
that's
if
right.
you haven't used it. Use that up.
Yep, two POs I created, purchase order 30 and purchase order 31, having the pending it as a status.
Gotcha.
So
And do they have different items, or is it the same item on both?
same item. Do you want me to have another item?
Yeah, let's not use the straw item on this one. Let's use that bottle one. Yeah, because they don't really purchase straw. They're making it. So let's use that same one. What are that golden caps? Whatever that cap item was.
Okay. So yeah, we can of course do the receive from the SCM mobile app, but as we are doing the inbound shipment, so first of all, I need to create an inbound shipment document in NetSuite. So for that, I need to go into transactions, purchase, and then create inbound shipment.
And from a timing perspective, Aisha, I assume they send you like a packing slip or something telling you this is the container with these POs that's going to be coming in. They give you like a heads up, right?
Yeah. Well, we also know when we place the order what items we put in the in that container.
Oh, so you decide which ones come together in a container.
Not
Okay.
100% of the time, but I think 99% maybe. But yeah, if we're building a multiple SKU container, I think we build it ourselves most of the time.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. So that's the timing of when you would create the shipment. So if you're building it, then that's when you come and create this, or if they are giving you the information, then whenever they give you the information, that's when you create this record.
Okay. So yeah, I'm just having a back date so that I can receive today. So expected shipping date 25, considering the same date as my shipping date as well, 25. Delivery date
Initially,
as
you wouldn't really enter an actual shipping date because you have no idea, right? At the time of creating,
yeah.
you just only expect it. So you can just clear out those actuals. You don't need to enter those. Just enter the 2 expected ones and you should be good.
Yep, the delivery date should be today's one. And we can of course enter the vessel number. Just for example, I'm entering here, and the bill of lading. At the bottom section, I can select my purchase order, that is 30 and 31.
I
This
think it would
item.
be easier to just use the button, Suraj. I think that add PO item, it just kind of lets you edit if you had multiple. Yeah, let's just do it this way. Yeah, just click cancel out there on the previous one. I think you're
Okay, okay.
yeah, just
Remove,
yeah.
add purchase order item and vendor. Oh, sorry, I have test vendor. I just
Yeah, you have to click on it. Yep.
okay.
So if
So all
this
the
if this PO had multiple items, you would be able to, if they were only sending you one line item as part of this container, you can just kind of uncheck it out here. Like if you select that caret symbol next to the checkbox, that arrow that you see. Yeah.
Mhm.
So right from the screen, if there were 10 items on this PO, but they were sending you only 2 of the SKUs, you could just uncheck whatever they are not sending you as part of this shipment and things like that. So, and you can also change the quantity. If they've told you, hey, we are only sending you a partial on this one, the quantity expected, you can kind of edit that. That's an editable field. Can you click on that, by the way? You don't need to change it, just showing. Yeah, it's an editable field. So you can make changes if you need to, but yeah, for now you can just save this as is. I don't think much.
Yep. So now both the items from the both purchase order are mentioned here. And let me save this information. Yep. So once the inbound shipment is created, I can make this inbound shipment as mark in transit.
So you'd be checking that whenever the vendor tells you, right? Whenever they tell you, hey, this has left the port or whatever, you can just come in and here and in
Could
transit.
we do what's the word I'm looking for? EDI or some other type of integration where the vendor hits that from their end?
Isha, you might be able to answer this question. Do you have plans for even EDI on the vendor side, correct?
That is correct. So that's, I think we'll get an onboarding or a discovery thing next week on that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, we will, Max, the inbound shipping though for overseas is not part of that though.
Right. Okay. So I can, yeah, I guess I'll will be manually inputting the data they send over when the bill's released.
Yeah, I don't think we scoped it out for overseas partners to do that, but I don't know that we can't. So we can probably have that conversation with them.
There's also, I mean, something. We'll take the SPS and EDI stuff offline.
Okay.
This is at the very least, this is functional, especially for overseas stuff or for anything that we're arranging. So
Yeah.
Yep.
It should work for that, and that's pretty much all we want to have. It's pretty much all we want to have. I mean, I don't know how the landed cost works for all the other shipments, but for the inbound, that's how that would work, I think.
So once we tick mark that as a transit, now we can decide that whether the ownership should be transferred or not. So once we have that point, we can click on this take ownership and we can generate a ownership transfer entry.
So just to remind everyone, again, just to give context of this, basically this is for CAD really, it's more of an accounting thing. This, you are doing this take ownership. If you want the, this to hit your books, right? Before it even reaches your warehouse, right? If according to the Incoterms of whatever you have with them, if you need this to be reflected on your books, hit your accounts, it hits basically like an in transit account. This is kind of what it hits. So if and I believe what's the other side this hits? Yeah, we'll just see that in a second, the GL impact. But if this is something that you need for it to happen and hit your books even before it reaches your warehouse, that is when you use this optional step of take ownership. If again, this is an optional step. If based on your Incoterms, you really don't need it to hit your books until the items actually are received at your warehouse, then you don't need to do this step. Again, you will see this in a second. This does not mean that taking ownership does not add the quantity or anything. It just hits your book on specific accounts and tells you that, hey, a quantity of 20 is in transit, that's all. But it just hits your book on specific accounts that you'll see in a second. But just know that this is optional and you can decide based on the scenario if you want to do this or not. Yeah, you can go ahead, Suraj.
Yep, thank you. So here, so I should be selecting the posting period for these transactions. That should be March 25, and the date should be today's date, and save. Once we save, ownership transfer transaction will be generated. Let me see. Here it is, ownership transfer 2.
Is that the right one, Suraj? This says PO24. I thought we were using PO31 and something.
Yeah, 30 and 31, that what I have used. Let me see.
Maybe go to the
List,
PO and find it on the, I think that's showing you an order.
maybe here only,
Yeah.
in transit, and PO 3031. So
You
as
can,
I
no,
have
no, you don't
created
need to
the,
move. Sorry, Suraj, stay on this page. If you scroll down, you should be able to find the ownership transfer right here. Scroll down to the right. Yeah, related transaction.
okay, here.
Yeah, should be able to find it. I don't know if you can do new tab. I think you have to just click it. Yeah, so here you won't be able to see GL impact, but at least you got the number. Yeah, if you click the link, I believe it should open that up for you. Are you able to see the GL impact here under actions? Otherwise,
No.
you might just need to read. At least you have the number. So just open that ownership transfer 3 from the list of, yeah.
Yep. So here it will give us the number if I go inside. But if I want to see the ownership transactions list that is available in the purchase and the last option, ownership transfers. Here all the ownership transfer is available, but the latest one is this 41.
I think we just saw the number, right, Suraj? I thought we saw it as 3 or something. Is this the right one? Because this one doesn't give you which
Document
PO.
number is 4, right? I mean 3 and 4, 2 has been created, I believe.
Okay. Oh, it's 2 separate
Yeah,
POs. Gotcha,
yeah,
gotcha,
2 separate POs, that's why. 2 ownership transfer has been created.
gotcha.
So if I go from here, the GL impact. So this is what the GL impact is. Your accrued expense is credited by $100, and one more account is debited by $100. That is external inventory in transit. This will become your inventory asset once we really receive the item.
Is that number, Chad, is that what you wanted, or is that just a dummy number we've given sys 105, whatever it says? Is that the actual account number?
Yeah. No. This is the system generated number. As I haven't found the similar account available in the charts of account, but if this is something that you want to have in your charts of account and to be in the balance sheet or PNL, you can give me your charts of account number, that then I can update this particular ledger.
Yeah, it'd probably be like prepaid inventory or something like that.
Mhm.
Or we could create one.
Okay. We will discuss this in our DM call maybe.
We can't, so just to know, Chad, we have to use the system generated account itself. So that's why we have to, like, we can't create a separate external inventory in transit accounts. We just have to use that account itself. We can just renumber it to whatever you want to incorporate it into your, out of accounts. We just need to renumber it. So it won't let you create a separate account.
We could create another GL, right?
No, for external inventory in transit, this is a system generated account, and this is the one that it will always use. So we can't create our own. We just have to renumber this. That's all. We just have to give it a different number so that it's the number that you want. Instead of sys105, we can renumber to whatever you want it. We can't create a separate GL account on our own for external inventory in transit.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
And before you go to the next step, Suraj, can you also open for this one the item record so we can just show them where it shows them in transit quantity?
Yeah, just a second. Where this can be seen, Sujata?
Yeah, where are the quantities? Sorry, I don't know which tab you're on. Yeah, where are all the different, sorry, where the quantities go? No, it should be under purchasing and inventory. The different quantities where it says, okay, this is the cost of it. Scroll down. Is it hidden or something? Okay, scroll down. No, scroll down further. Yeah. Locations. Can you click on that? Is that where it goes? Yep. So, and then if you do a control F on in transit, yeah, quantity in
There it
transit
is.
external. Yep. So this is what it tells you. So anything which says quantity in transit external, that means it's coming through an inbound shipment. If it just says quantity in transit, which is the previous column, that is anything which is coming over internally from a transfer order. So this is where you can kind of see that you have something coming over.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So coming back to my inbound shipment. So yes, so now the receiving part is there. So we can do this receiving part from our mobile screen, SCM tool, or else we can of course do it from here. Let me go into this one, SCM mobile, and go to NodeScript WMS, A59, receiving. Here the inbound shipment option is available. I'll select from the list. This is the one. Both item is available, so I will select both the items. I think one by one. Yep. And enter lot. So maybe 1, 2, 3, 4. Enter lot. Quantity 10 out of 10. Enter quantity. This is the bin that I'm going to select. Then the another item, that is this. The entire item is not configured to use the bin to receive this item, and I must check the use. Okay. This item is not configured for bin purpose yet.
Can
But,
you quickly go check that? Yeah, can you just so that we are able to finish the process? Yeah, just go to.
I think I have already opened one here. Oh,
Yeah, just real quick, just edit it, click use bins, and let me just do one thing on the back end while you're doing that. Just so you're able to see.
Can't move shit. Suraj, Sujata, I have a question while we're here. I know that so we've in the few times that I've asked about this, there's no way to put in an overage tolerance on the receipt. Is that correct? So in terms of quantity, we ordered 10, they ship us 13. What does that look like from the let's use from the scan gun perspective?
Yeah, there's no tolerance. I think that's kind of what we had discussed earlier is you either allow overage or not. It's just a checkbox that a system preference which says, hey, do I want to allow or not? Right? If you allow, then you can, it's anything, right? It's not like, hey, allow it, but only allow it up to 10% or something. It doesn't really have that.
I'm just going to stick in the call because I have a Fathom recorder going and I want to get the rest of the call on the Fathom notes.
It's
But
a
I'll just do other stuff until 11.
so
I just don't want you to be like,
there-
leave the call.
Sorry, Max, I think we could hear some other
it's okay.
conversation. Sorry, I missed if you said something.
it's a binary switch then. It's not a I can't set a tolerance. I can turn it on.
You can turn it on, yes. There's no
Okay.
tolerance there. You can turn it on. That was the danger. Sorry, Suraj, just stay on the page. I don't think we thought we were doing.
No, that's fine. The past few times that I've spoken to people from either NetSuite or MHI about this, they said that it was not an option.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's not an option to set a tolerance. You can just allow it. If you allow, they can receive as much as they want. Yeah, you can definitely allow it. Yeah,
right?
so it says 10, they can even receive 100 or how many ever they send in excess. So that is why we were just thinking if you want to have better control, then, I think the option that we had discussed back then is to kind of not allow it. And then if you do want to add it, then maybe, they send 20 and you do decide, okay, this is within my tolerance. If you do want to allow you could just go to the PO and add the additional quantity so that then they are able to receive. Again, that's just an option. So either you can go with option A, just allow overage in general, or do the latter option. So
okay, so if I wanted a tighter control on that, I would have to I'd have to be editing the PO before we were able to fully process the receipt of that shipment, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, probably when it lands at your door and then you count it or something and then you receive it. Yeah, right before you receive it, as long as you update it, they are able to receive the rest.
That's and so if there is an overage, so like if we're going through the receiving window, like the window we're looking at here, Suraj, for that item, if we hit 13, it's just going to say no, right? It's just going to reject the receipt.
I think right now, I don't know if we have allowed overage. Let me just do a quick check. But yeah, I don't think we have allowed. Give me 1 second. Let's just verify that. So preference, just make sure so that we can show it to you right now as well if you want as to what message it shows. Overage. Yeah, I think we have not set it to allow. So while receiving, did you finish receiving already, Suraj, everything?
Yeah, the another one, the similar one I just did.
Okay.
It was having the same steps. That's why I just completed it.
Okay. Then yeah, real quick, can you just go into receiving again? We'll come back to the topic just to make sure you're able to see how it shows right now. Click on receiving, just any random PO. Is there something that you can receive? Just click on purchase order for now, just to show that concept applies everywhere.
We
just
do have, let's say this.
Just select one, and let's select that.
Remaining is 11.
Let's just select a higher quantity. Let's select like 20 or something like that. Yeah, whatever, that's fine. No, anything is fine about that. Yeah, and then just click enter quantity. Yeah, so you see here, right? This is the error you get because right now we have disallowed it.
Got it.
Okay. Suraj, you can go back to the topic. So just to catch up on everyone on what you were just doing while we were talking is you just went to the scan gun and kind of received the shipment, correct? You received the items. You just went to inbound shipment and then just received it as usual. And did you have to post as well? Did you have to post the item receipt?
Yeah, I need to post it.
Oh, okay, we haven't done that yet. Okay.
So just completed the inbound shipment. I received both the item using this option. Now I'm going to post the item receipts. The purchase order, sorry, the inbound shipment. And then this is the inbound shipment number. both item that is already receipt, post item receipts, and main menu. Then we can do the put away. Do you want me to complete the put away process as well?
Yeah,
Because
I don't think so. And I don't think you'll be able to complete it either because we don't have an additional bin anyways. I think it's probably gonna error out. So, but yeah, I think they get the idea. We probably need to create a new bin to do that. So yeah, we can just move on.
So this is my inbound statement. If I refresh this, receipt transaction has been completed. And now to see the receipt transactions, I can open this purchase order.
It's here as well, Suraj. If you go back to that inbound shipment, yeah, you scroll right. The related transactions, remember? Yep. Yeah. So just to know, it's there in both ways. It just opens as a pop-up window. At least you're able to see it here. That's all. So yeah.
Yep.
But yeah,
So
the
both
other
the records are there, ownership transfer and the receipts. So coming back to my purchase order, that is purchase order 31, that is currently showing as a pending receipt, but once I refresh, this would be receipt completed. Yep. So now it's showing as a pending bill. So receipt is completed. So this is all about the inbound shipment, that how we can do in the NetSuite. Any other questions on this process?
and Chad, one thing, even for these, sorry, did we lose Chad?
Sujata, Chad had to drop off. We have a vendor in town, so I don't, unless Max has any questions about this, we'll have to wait to get Chad's feedback on Monday, I think, on it now.
I don't know that I have any more questions right now.
Okay.
Okay, then we can move to. I think he was there when we were doing ownership transfer anyways. So
Yeah,
I think that's probably the only point that
2 minutes
yeah.
ago dropped off. So
yeah, I think it was good he was there for the accounting part. Okay, I think we have 10 more minutes. So Suraj, what's the next topic that you have?
Yeah, so let's complete the purchase order side. If I have something else like blanket purchase order that we need to discuss, and the purchase contracts. That's two topics I think we can cover. So yeah, so let's discuss with the purchase contract first. So that is available in the transactions, purchases, and where is that? Yeah, here it is, purchase contract. I'll go to the list because I already have one. I'll be opening this PC0T as a purchase contract. Yep. So on this purchase contract, we can select a particular vendor for which the purchase contract is related to. Then all the other necessary.
Can you create a new purchase contract? Yeah, just so
Yeah,
that
let me do it. Okay. This vendor I should select now. Date is good. Subsidiary as per the vendor record, memo for additional informations. Effective based on, so the purchase contract can be effected based on the receipt date, expected receipt date, or the order date. We can select any of that. Let me select the order date for now. My purchase contract start date, I just, this is currently as a current date, that you can enter a different date as well, and the purchase contract end date as well. Minimum amount that we can enter that is required to be purchased from this vendor to fulfill the purchase contract conditions and terms, but that is optional. So let me, I'm not going to enter anything, but you can put the minimum amount and the maximum amount related to this purchase contract.
And Suraj, just to clarify, that's just informational, right? System doesn't enforce anything.
Yes.
Based on that. Okay, just want to make that clear.
Yep, that's just information.
Yeah. System doesn't enforce and say you have to buy this minimum or maximum or anything. So.
I can enter my location for which this purchase contract is belonging to, and maybe you can put blank as well if this is applicable applicable to both the locations. I'm just selecting the administrator classes part as well. Okay. Now at the item sections, we can select the contracted item. So let me select one, that is this, for example. Over here, the base rate is $10 for this item. However, in the item pricing, we can define the range of the quantities, and based on the range, we can also decide what should be my price. So for example, there are here I can have three options, like either I can calculate my quantity discount based on the line quantity, which is my quantity value, items quantity number, or else the overall item quantity, means on the purchase order, system will sum up the quantity of all the items, and based on that quantity number, you can define the pricing. The third option is to purchase order item quantity, means for the purchase order that is created out of this contract, system will consider all those purchase order and consider the quantity of this particular item and sum up the quantity of all the purchase order where this item is used from this purchase contract. And that quantity can be considered for discount calculation. Currently, I'm just going with the by line quantity, like items quantity on the purchase order. Then after input using, there are two options. Either I can decide the percentage discount column, or either I can decide the rate or lot directly. Price using, there are three methods. Either I can put the rate which belongs to the whole category of the quantity, or just a marginal rate. Like if the quantity goes beyond the 5,000, then the marginal rate will only applicable to the quantities beyond the 5,000 and not to the 5,000. So in that case, we can choose the marginal rate, and there is a lot rate as well. Like for a particular lot, what should be my rate? In that case, that we can choose this one. Considering currently I'm choosing the rate, the simpler one. Then here, if the quantity is 0, my base price is 10. But if my quantities goes beyond 1,000, then my rate of price should be $8, discounted price, which is 20% of discount, right? So if that goes beyond the 1,000, then vendor will apply this particular price. So this is something that we can define here. After this, we can put other informations like promise date and okay, related asset is not applicable here, so you can ignore this one. In the terms, I can select my payment terms applicable to this purchase contract, and of course the Incoterms and the carrier. There is one more discount options, like if my amount goes beyond specific value, then I can have a percent discount, additional percent discount. Let's say if it goes $10,000 of purchase order value, then I must have additional 2% of discount that we can decide here. There are some special instructions. This is just for informational purpose that you can add additionally here. Relationship is for contacts. In the communication, this is just similar tab for all the transactions. So let me save this. Once the purchase contract is created, this purchase contract can be available to select in the purchase order. So let's say if I go to purchase order and I just enter a new purchase order, and let me do a purchase order for this particular with this vendor. So I'll select this vendor here. Okay. And at the item section, I can choose that item here as well. Let me see this. This is the one. And on the item line, I have option to select the purchase contract. So all the purchase contract will be available for this vendor. So I can choose out of the list the specific purchase contract for this vendor. So I'll select this, and once I select this, all other information will automatically be pop up, right? Like department, class, expected receipt date, and everything. For example, if I increase my quantity like 2,000. So accordingly, my rate is also adjusted. As this is 2,000 multiplied by 10, which will goes beyond the 10,000. So that's why the additional discount is applicable. So that's why the rate is 8.06 for 2,000. And this all things are happening automatically based on the purchase contract I selected. And accordingly, I can save this information. Once I save, I can go to the purchase contract back, and I will have information that out of the purchase contract value, what amount I have billed. So you can see that out of the from this contract, I have this is $16,120 has been my purchase amount, and accordingly, if I receive it, then everything will be updated accordingly, receipt amount and the billed amount. And from this purchase contract, how many and what purchase order has been created, those information will be available in the related report as well. So this is all about the purchase contract.
Yeah.
Any question? Yep.
Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah, this would be the last topic. I think we're at time as well. So Aisha and team, the purchase contract, did all of this make sense? Is there anything else that you need to see on purchase contract?
No, not at this time. I am spending, time playing around with it. So on our next call, if we do have some stuff or on the review later today or our catch up thing, I'll let you know. But Max and I will look through this a little more in detail.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. So I know we still have a few topics pending. So what I was thinking is on Friday's session, we have 3 hours slotted, but we don't really need 3 hours. So anything that doesn't involve Chad, I know he's not there. So we'll look at the remaining topics. Anything that doesn't involve Chad, we can cover those in the Friday session. And then the rest, we are anyway going to have like a buffer session on Tuesday, and everything that's pending and everything else, we can just cover that on Tuesday when Chad is back.
Yeah, so Jackie just scheduled a 7 to 7:30 to cover something on the manufacturing side. So
Okay.
we can do we have I've got order to cash part 2 scheduled from 7 to 9, and then from 7 to 10 we have session 10 scheduled.
Sorry,
So
which day are you referring to?
I'm referencing Friday the 28th.
Okay, yeah.
So probably make it 7:30 because Jackie scheduled the
Okay.
7 to 7:30. We're keeping the overnight person here a little bit longer so he can do the
Gotcha.
manufacturing module.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, we'll change Fridays to 7:30, and then we'll schedule a buffer session on Tuesday for any accounting remaining topics, because we won't be able to cover those on Monday because Suraj and team are out. So it's an India holiday. So yeah, we'll schedule one for Tuesday. Okay, sounds good. I'll ask Adi to make the Friday change.
Okay.
And we're just shifting a few topics around, by the way, for Thursday, Friday, since we decided that some of the customer order to cash has to go on Monday. We'll probably just revise the agenda, but I would assume all your participants are the same, right? I think we're going to do call to resolution on Thursday just to keep some continuity. So we'll probably just shuffle around a few topics on Thursday and Friday, like move them from Friday to Thursday. But I would assume
it's okay. It's easier if we kind of know what we're moving, because I keep the warehouse guys out of the. I have them participate, so they don't.
We'll update the agenda.
It,
Yeah, I'll have Adi.
So just tell me what the updated agenda is, so then I can I can make sure the right people are here, because I am bringing in people in early, right? So it's 7 o'clock. So if they don't need to be here, then they don't have to come. So that's why I want to make sure I've got the schedule right for them.
Yep. I'll work with Adi, since I can't edit the invite. I'll just work with him and update the agenda. Okay. Sounds good. Thank you all.
Okay.
Have a good one.
You
Bye.
too. Thanks.
Thank you.